It might sound like an odd question, but pitches can be different sizes with big consequences. Why is that? And what are the actual rules? Back when association football started, pitches could be up to 100 metres wide and 200 metres long. That's longer than Ellen Road. Not the pitch, the stadium. Anyway, UEFA wanted a standard across Europe for international matches, which became 105 metres long and 68 metres wide. But some clubs have been rebels, not intentionally, but because of the stadiums. Take Highbury, for example. It was 5 metres shorter and a metre narrower, meaning away sides had a challenge to adjust. White Hart Lane was exactly the same. And actually, when Spurs temporarily moved to Wembley, they asked the FA to shorten the pitch. The FA, very offended by the sacrilegious suggestion, said no, which in fairness could have actually benefited Tottenham because when they moved into their shiny new stadium, the pitch was exactly the same size as Wembley's. Today, Forest pitch at the City Ground is a big one. It's 2 metres wider than any other pitch in the Premier League. But the smallest of all, Craven Cottage, just 100 metres long and 65 wide. No excuse for not tracking your man. There are a couple of crazy outliers in Europe too. At Napoli's home ground, the Stadio Diego Armando Maradona, the pitch is a whopping 110 metres long. At least they don't play on a slope like Newcastle do. There's a 2-metre incline on the pitch at St James's Park. And don't get me started on the old pitch at Yeovil too. It used to be a slant of 2 metres corner to corner and across the halfway line. So UEFA have their standards, so do the FA, but they do give pitches in England some wiggle room. Pitches can be anywhere between 90 and 120 metres long and between 45 and 90 metres wide. I mean, the rules state you can't have a square pitch, but in theory you could have one that's 91 metres long and 90 wide. Imagine rocking up to play a Sunday League game and the pitch is basically a square. So there are rules and regulations on sizes, with a UEFA standard that roughly everyone follows, but as we all know, size doesn't matter, does it?
Oh, very good morning. It's 3 minutes past 6 o'clock. It is Tuesday, July the 21st. This is talkSPORT Breakfast with me, Jeff Stelling, and Gabby Agbonlahor. We're with you right through until 10 o'clock, and no question about what is going to be the main topic of the morning, of course, and that was the passing of Kevin Keegan yesterday. And Gab's out, you know, like everybody else, I was out having a walk by the Thames yesterday, and I was shocked. I had to sit down. I mean, I didn't know Kevin at all, but obviously he's been a big part of my life.
Of course.
You know, and to see him go, we knew he was ill with cancer, but to see him go so suddenly was a humongous blow.
I think as well, Jeff, you know, it's, even myself, you know, growing up, national treasure.
Yeah,
people used to always say to you, Kevin Keegan, you know, the first thing that comes into my mind is that rant. You know, they've got
course,
to come, that's what sticks into my mind. But when you speak to the older generation, the amount of times that Alan, Ali have said that, like, Gabby, top manager, but even better player.
Yeah. Oh, he's a brilliant player.
So I want to ask, like, our guest today, Jeff, that watched him play, like, how good was he? 2 Ballon d'Ors. How good of a player was Kevin Keegan?
Well, he played the game with such zest, you know, with such desire. He always felt that he wasn't the greatest, but he was determined to make up for any shortcomings he had with the passion that he put into the games. I mean, he managed in the same way. That's how his teams played. Yeah. His teams really were a reflection of him because they played, you know, in cavalier fashion with loads of individuals who gave absolutely everything, you know. So, and I said I didn't know him, but obviously, after his career, he became a big name on the after dinner circuit. So, my path would cross a lot with people who crossed his path as well. And the thing that everybody said about Kevin Keegan, you know, people go and do an after dinner or a theatre show and things, and all they want to do is get away. But not Kev. He would, you know, there could be 1,000 people queuing up for his photograph and his autograph, and he would wait whatever time of night it was. He would wait until every single person had got the autograph, had got the photograph. You know, they paid to see him, and he was determined to give them value for money, which really, again, reflected his football career, you know. He was determined to give everything to football fans, and did. So, really
sad news, mate. And just flicking through social media yesterday, just seeing the tributes, you know, from so many players that played under him, and then players that played with him, and obviously would have known him from that era. Yeah, so it's horrible news, mate.
Yeah, I mean, just 75, yeah.
No age.
No. Two-time Ballon d'Or winner, if you prefer, European Footballer of the Year. England captain, England manager, an absolute legend on Merseyside and on Tyneside as well. Here's how talkSPORT reacted to the news yesterday.
What can you say about Kevin Keegan?
Well, to me, he's one of the greatest ever Liverpool players.
He has given English football some of its finest moments with Liverpool, with Newcastle.
I just loved him, and I'm really sad that he's gone.
Kevin Keegan scores and his career on Tyneside turns full circle.
For the city of Newcastle, for the people, they've waited a long, long time, and they're the best, there's no doubt about that.
You feel empty because he was such a fantastic, fantastic guy.
The biggest superstar in our dressing room, when we had some top players in that era, was our manager.
And he gave them a brilliant football team that played some great football.
And he lifted us out of the doldrums.
With Philippe Albert.
Turned your TV on to watch Newcastle. They were that good.
He is a German icon, every bit as much as he is a British icon.
Two-time European Player of the Year.
I played football up till Christmas that even I couldn't believe.
The whole career was characterised by that honesty and passion.
I'll tell you, honestly, I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
So privileged to have had an incredible footballer, a great human being, and a wonderful manager.
You know, Kevin Keegan has given it his best shot.
Well, that's something that he absolutely always did. He always gave it his best shot. Trailblazer as well, of course, one of the first players to go and play abroad when he went to Hamburg, which shocked a lot of people. The hairstyle, everyone wanted the curly perm once Kevin Keegan had got one. And you mentioned the rant there, and you heard a little clip of it, that I would love it rant during the climax, that 95-96 title race between Newcastle and Manchester United, and I'm sure we all remember that Liverpool game. We all remember the Liverpool-Newcastle game. You know,
always 4-3, wasn't it? Always high scoring games.
Stan Collymore, you know, virtually with the last kick of the game after Newcastle had led, I think, twice during the course.
I just want to hear, Jeff,
match.
throughout the day, and hopefully we get the guests on breakfast show, just players that played under him as well.
Yeah,
you know, the players played with him. We don't know what sort of manager was he.
Yeah,
was he one that laughed and joked with you? Was he strict at times? Did you get a rollicking at half time from him? Did you get the hairdryer treatment? And because he developed, didn't he? Alan Shearer, Ginola, Les Ferdinand at Newcastle.
Yeah.
You know,
can you imagine? I mean, we're going to talk to Warren Barton after 7, who stepped into a dressing room that contained Ginola, Philippe Albert, Peter Beardsley, Les Ferdinand, Keith Gillespie, and later Shearer and Tino Asprilla as well.
Great team, wasn't it?
Oh, man. Well, and you know, most of those players are sort of reflection of him.
Yeah.
You know, talented, flair, cavalier, if you like.
Yes.
Sean's just texted and said, and don't forget, he started his career a little old Scunthorpe before making his move to Liverpool. He'll always be our hero at Scunthorpe. And that's, you know, people forget that, you know, he was one of those who made his way, you know, from the ground floor of English football, if you're right.
And even when you think about England managers, Jeff, in the last 30, 40 years, he stands out, doesn't he? You know, just that era. And he's like Kevin Keegan, England manager. I know I was quite young, but growing up and seeing all the clips, his passion, determination as a manager, like incredible. Yeah, and I hope his family are very looked after.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Look, floods of tributes coming in since the news hit us. King Kev, of course, plastered all over the papers today. Lee Clark was part of Keegan's famous entertainers side. He joined Drive yesterday to reflect on his experiences with Kevin.
And the perfect example, Andy, was, things get said about the lads from our era to say that we never turned down a request for a photo or an autograph. We spent time with people. And that was shown to us an example by the biggest superstar in our dressing room, and we had some top players in that era, was our manager, Kevin Keegan. He was the person that people came to see and wanted to be around. He never turned down a photograph, an autograph. He always spent time with people. When we've had some, anniversaries of teams that we've had like, the team that got promoted to the Premier League. I think that was a 30-year anniversary. And we'd done like a gig in a local hotel, and some fans had paid extra to get some pictures. Every single one of them person he had a moment with to chat with them before they got that picture taken. And it just showed you what the man was about. So he was the perfect example to us.
In an ideal world, everyone would take a leaf out of the Kevin Keegan book. Would it have time for everyone? But you know what happens, of course, as people become established, people become famous, whether it be in football or any other walk of life, suddenly, for whatever reason, you find you haven't got time for people in the way you might have done.
You have to, but that's how to be, isn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, of course it is.
You know what I mean? Like, the amount of times you've probably been through it, and I've been through it, where, people might ask for a photo or something signed, and you're just like, no problem. You can't be what we see definitely in America, some of the Americans that say no.
Can you imagine how many photos Kevin Keegan would have been asked for in Liverpool and Newcastle?
I know.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he said yes to everybody.
Everybody, yeah. It's not just those who knew Kevin personally who've been sharing their thoughts following the sad news. Helen called the station yesterday to tell us what King Kev meant to her.
Absolutely devastated. I never met Kevin Keegan. I wished I had. But as a 14-year-old schoolgirl, I became aware of him when he joined Liverpool. Hence, I became a Liverpool supporter. I'm now 66, still support Liverpool and still follow Kevin Keegan as much as I can. I met my husband when I was 16, married him at 18, but we always had this... I think he thought it was a joke. I didn't think it was a joke. We used to have this saying that I would never leave him unless Kevin came knocking. I used to say, if Kevin comes knocking, I'm going.
It's the perm.
It was the perm.
Yeah.
As a teenager, all my friends had pop stars on their bedroom walls. I had Kevin Keegan on my bedroom wall. I still have a photograph of him now.
Yeah, and I think, Helen reflects what a lot of people would think. When you're asked about people you wished you'd met, Kevin Keegan would have been high on the list for everybody like me who hadn't met him.
Yeah, it's sad news, isn't it, Jeff? And I feel that by hearing people speak, and when people spoke about him before, we had that charisma as well, didn't he?
Oh, everything. Incredibly charismatic.
Everything as well. Imagine being his teammate as well, the stories that they've got.
Yeah.
Players that played with him, players that played with him when he was a manager. I bet there's so many fun stories, pre-season trips. I can imagine those after-dinner events were worth every single penny.
Yeah, I'm absolutely certain of that. And of course, his charisma crossed from the football field into the greater wild world, because he was involved in so many other things, from superstars to, advertising brute and things like that. We use the phrase legend far too easily, but Kevin Keegan really was a genuine legend of the game. Whether you knew him personally or not, whether you met him, we want to hear from you, the fans. 03717 22 3344, or you can text us 81089 as we remember Kevin Keegan. This is talkSPORT Breakfast. is a line that you should not overstep, and they overstepped it communally numerous times.
Got to be a long ban.
Yeah.
Jeff, if you look at it, Jeff, if you watch it back 5 or 6 times, Paredes, what we say, on Garcia, he grabs his neck, and the way Garcia's neck, after the game, Garcia's neck jolts. That's assault.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Like, it's assault.
Like you, Stuart Pearce believes that the Argentinian midfielder needs an incredibly strong punishment.
But you've got to say, and just to back up exactly what you've just said there, sometimes in life and in football, what goes round comes round. And that's exactly what's happened to Argentina today. And I'm sure FIFA will see the punch that was thrown at the end of the game, and obviously they were quite happy to extend a 6-game ban for a Qatari player, and I'm sure when they see a punch like that, it will probably warranty a 20-game ban. I'm sure FIFA will be right on top of this, Aid.
Yeah.
Get ready to get that winning feeling with talkSPORT Win. This summer, talkSPORT is bringing you live and official coverage of every game of the FIFA World Cup 2026. And to celebrate, we're giving away £26,000 guaranteed. Go to win.talksport.com to enter now, and you could win 26 grand in your hand, tax-free. Enter now, and you could be the next to get that winning feeling, courtesy of talkSPORT Win. Find out how to enter now at win.talksport.com.
Very good morning to you. This is talkSPORT Breakfast. I'm Jeff Stelling. Gabby Agbonlahor is with me. We asked you Kevin Keegan stories, and of course they flooded in. John says in 1968, Coventry were on the up with Jimmy Hill in charge. They had a wonderful youth and apprentice set up. Players like Willie Carr, Graham Padden, Dennis Mortimer, Bobby Gould, Jeff Blockley, many more young players were at the club. And Coventry, like all clubs, they held trials for younger players. In 1968, a young 16-year-old stayed with his uncle. His name was Kevin Keegan. He had trialled at Coventry City. Kevin was not offered an apprenticeship. He played a few games for Nuneaton while he stayed with his uncle. He returned to Doncaster and tried out for Scunthorpe and joined them in the old 4th division. And John's actually sent a photo of him playing for Nuneaton Town under 18 juniors in 1968. John himself was part of the Coventry City youth setup, and he says this should give all kids who don't make it the first time the message: do not give up. And now the latest episode of How to Win the World Cup is live. I should be done by now, shouldn't it? It's been won. No one told them. Matt Ford's alongside the 98 World Cup winner Manu Petit and comedian Alex Brooker to reflect on Spain's triumph and England's 3rd place finish. Here, Petit explains just how Spain won the World Cup.
This whole show is called How to Win the World Cup. So, Emmanuel, how did Spain do it?
DNA, that's their culture, you know, the way they play all the time. Every time you play against Spanish team, you know that everything will be based, you know, on movements, intelligent, tactical techniques, things like this. This is how football should be played on the pitch. We are all focused nowadays, you know, it's been like this for years now. Focus on the stars, on Kylian Mbappe, Lionel Messi, whatever. They're all great players, but without a team behind them, they are nothing. And we saw that again yesterday. Manager, my advice is very simple. Don't be focused on your stars anymore. Be focused on your team.
How Spain won the World Cup, available now wherever you get your podcasts and on the talkSPORT World Cup YouTube channel. Of course, the World Cup is over. How much did FIFA actually make from this tournament in the end? Now, Mark Gay's spoken out about the ticketing prices after seeing a lot of empty seats during England's 3rd place playoff with France. Mark, it was nothing to do with the ticket prices for the 3rd place playoff. It's people were not interested because it was a glorified friendly. He said ticket pricing was rubbish. I don't know what they're thinking, FIFA, to be honest. the game had 64,000 in a 71,000 seater stadium. That's not too shabby, I don't think, Gabby, to be honest.
As well, how many people have spent tens of thousands on the World Cup?
Yeah.
Why would you spend a penny on a third place playoff bronze medal game? I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I'm sure loads of fans that go worldwide for England, Jeff, would have says, all right, home time now. Not spend another penny, so you can't blame them.
And look, I mean, generally speaking, I think one thing about the tournament we're about to find out is that the crowds were very, very good.
Yeah.
And US TV viewing figures were very, very good.
Yes.
And profit margins for FIFA were very, very good. Let's see if we can confirm that now, because here to break down all the numbers and whether FIFA will learn from this year's pricing, it's the football finance expert, Kieran Maguire. Morning, Kieran.
Morning, Kieran.
Morning, guys.
So will this be a record World Cup for FIFA in terms of revenues, Kieran?
Absolutely, Jeff. Spectacular success. 2022 in Qatar, around about $8 billion. It's estimated that this World Cup, with the increase in the number of matches, with the increase in the size of the average capacity of the stadium, and of course the pricing, you put those three things together and we're talking $14 billion. And the winners only got 40 million. So all of that money is effectively recycled back to FIFA.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what that means, of course, Kieran, is that a lot of that money goes to the lesser nations who, in turn, when they have a vote on the future of Gianni Infantino, will inevitably support him.
Absolutely, it's a bit of a circular loving. The amount of money going to the individual countries. So if you're Bhutan, if you're the Cook Islands, if you're Nepal or Liechtenstein, that's increased by a factor of 4 compared to where we were in 2014. And Gianni is up for election very soon. There's 211 votes. He needs to get over half of them, and over half of them have already been pledged to him. So I think it's going to be more of a coronation than a presidential battle, even if there is an alternative candidate.
Kieran, I think people have moaned, haven't they, about the ticket pricing, but it's not going to change, is it? You know, as much as we moan on here and throughout the media about the crazy prices that fans have to pay, Infantino will see it as a big success, and I'm sure the next World Cup will be even more expensive.
Absolutely, Gabby. I think you're 100% accurate there. What we have is a new breed of football fan who wants to say that they've attended a match, that they've been for the experience, and there is no doubt that sort of the legacy fans, the people that I started going off to football with, because there was nothing else we could afford to do. It was a cheap form of escape, and it was absolutely brilliant. Being able to watch your local team. Those people, that their time has come and gone. We are now the dinosaurs of the game as far as FIFA are concerned, and they will point out to the fact that practically every ticket was sold for the tournament, and that there was a very, very diverse level of fans attending in terms of different countries, different nationalities, different backgrounds, and so on. But what they all had in common was that they weren't skint.
Yeah, I think the median admission price over the entire tournament was something like $900. 104 matches, they're not 64, Kieran. So more tickets to sell, more content to sell to broadcasters. Is it inevitable, now it seems it is, that there'll be 64 teams in the next World Cup, and that might become standard practice?
I think so going forwards, and that's not necessarily a negative. If you think that the only side that managed to draw in 90 minutes against both Argentina and Spain, who were the finalists, was Cape Verde, it does give hope for those small nations who don't get to qualify very happily. So I'm sure there'll be many of Italian fans, for example, who would celebrate the thought of a 64-team World Cup.
Yeah. Goodness knows what it does to the qualifying tournament, though, Kieran.
Yeah, but have we? When was the last time we got excited about a qualifying tournament? Because again, you're up against Andorra, you're up against Albania. Yep. It's sort of a bit of a trudge.
We'll be up against Anglesey and the Isle of Wight soon.
Don't knock the Isle of Wight, Jeff. Don't knock the Isle of Wight. Dark horses could be.
Kieran, moving on to the Premier League now. I've been vocal on here about the PSR problems Aston Villa have had. How will this Morgan Rogers sell help Villa now?
It will make a big difference, Gabby, because As far as the UEFA rules are concerned, they're based on a calendar year. So therefore, this sale will go into those figures. So that will give them wiggle room, along with the fact that Villa have deservedly qualified for the Champions League. So that's going to be a big positive as far as their coffers are concerned. And if you've got one big sale going out, that potentially allows you to expand the squad with 3 perhaps medium acquisitions coming in at the sort of that 30 to 40 million pound break. Because if you're playing Saturday, Wednesday, as you will do in the Champions League, it means that you need a bigger squad and you need that extra flexibility. So frustrating, I think, to lose a player of that calibre, but at the same time, it can be an overall positive. You've only got to look at Liverpool when they sold Philippe Coutinho for 138 million. And who did they sign? They signed Van Dijk, they signed Alisson, they signed Mo Salah, and that provided the backbone for the team for the next few years.
Do they do dynamic pricing at Legoland, Kieran?
Well, I'm about to find out. I've paid for premium pricing. I've paid for my fast pass. So yes, I think I'm taking my 2 granddaughters there. So it's going to be a very giddy day, and it will be candy floss and pizza all day long.
Yeah, I used to take my kids there all the time. It's absolutely brilliant. If those of you who haven't been, it's not just Lego, by the way.
Okay.
As well, there's a lot of Lego. There is a lot of Lego, but there are a lot of rides and things like that as well. It's brilliant. Hey, Kieran, hope you and your granddaughters have a brilliant day.
Thank you, Kieran.
Thanks, guys.
Kieran Maguire on the finances around that world. Look, the other thing that all of that means, humongous profit. And look, we shouldn't be totally miserable about it, because a lot of it will go back into the game, which is a big positive.
Definitely, and Madonna needs paying. Ronaldo and Ronaldinho need paying. All the ex-players that are sitting there with their wine and champagne need paying, Jeff.
I get it, but football as a whole will benefit, of course. But I think what it also means, not just as a 64-team World Cup inevitable in the future, it's inevitable too that the US will get the World 100%. Cup sooner,
because it's so
rather than
because
later.
They made so much more profit. In America, of course, they're going to go back.
Absolutely. Tributes coming into Kevin Keegan, and Paul from Branson in Staffordshire says, "I can't believe Kevin Keegan didn't get a knighthood. Everyone loved Kevin.
Yes.
He was my first and only football hero," and I think most people would agree with that, Paul. And Alan says, "Morning, guys. Pretty sure everyone who remembers Keegan's attacking philosophy as a manager would have wished him to have been England manager for the last 35 minutes or so against Argentina. At least we'd have had a real shot at repeating 1966 glory instead of departing with a whimper."
That's on, mate.
Coming up, we cross live to Argentina to hear how their countries reacted to the footballing world, calling them an embarrassment for their antics in the World Cup final. And, of course, we'll continue to pay tribute to the legend that was Kevin Keegan, who sadly passed away yesterday.
Who would have even dreamt that 6-4 would be the scoreline in
madness,
the third and fourth place game?
A 10-goal quote-unquote thriller, an absolute candy floss
And
of a game
the
of
chances
football.
that were missed as well.
Oh, I watched it live last night, and I went back over. My notes from when I'm watching a game are often an absolute madness when I read back over them. And I'm like,
Are you on little bits of paper, or is it a big sheet?
No, I actually, weirdly, I WhatsApp them to myself. So I write them in my phone as I'm watching, and as there's breaks in play, etc. And one of the things I wrote is England could have scored 6 in the first half. France could have scored 9 in the second half.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a absolute madness of a game of football, but is it one you take in any way seriously?
Well, it's hard to... Could you imagine that game and that result being in the tournament as a semi-final game?
Absolutely not.
That's just not going to happen. So I mean, watching the performance with England against, Argentina, we talked a lot about it yesterday.
Every spring, sports fans in Europe come together to celebrate arguably rugby's biggest annual tournament, the Six Nations. But why is it the home nations, plus France and Italy, and no one else? It all started back in 1871 when Scotland beat England in the very first international rugby match. A few years later, when they could field a team, Wales decided they'd host England and an idea was thought up. With Ireland keen, they formed the Home International Championship, which ran from 1883. In 1910, France was allowed to join, as they were developing into a serious rugby nation, and thus the Five Nations was born. France had an interesting history with the championship. They were actually booted out for paying their players in 1931, when the home nations were keen to keep it amateur. After World War II, though, France were let back in, but it remained a closed shop for more than 50 years. And when another country was let in, it was only really because the Five Nations hand had been forced. Italy was developing into a serious contender, beating Scotland, France and Ireland twice in the same year, meaning in 1999 officials got together and said yes to Italy and it became the Six Nations. So what changes, if any, come next? 7 nations? 8? A promotion and relegation system? Or should we leave it alone and let it remain the great rugby tradition it's become?
This is talkSPORT Breakfast with me, Jeff Stelling Gabby Agbonlahor and Arnold Clark. Browse the UK's best used car deals and score your dream car today. Check out their website for more details. George in Chesterfield says Jeff was mentioning the qualifying tournament quality. If they expand to 64 teams, how about they agree that previous winners of the World Cup automatically qualify for the finals? Top teams playing at a much higher level. I would watch a league involving Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, France, Germany, Spain, Italy and England. So he's suggesting a sort of Nations League type tournament whilst qualifying.
To be fair, our qualifiers, though, are embarrassing, aren't they?
Yeah.
No jeopardy. Comfortable.
Well, even less jeopardy now. And people who, want to talk about how well the smaller nations did it in the World Cup. Yeah, I get that. But let's just be honest with this. Qatar didn't win a game. Haiti lost all 3. Curacao got a point. New Zealand got a point, Saudi got a point, Jordan lost all 3, Uzbekistan lost all 3, Panama lost all 3 in those World Cups. But hey.
Yes.
What's your worst motorway? I'm surprised the M27. I drive down it a lot.
M42.
It is a shambles. The M42 is a nightmare.
Disgrace of a motorway.
Yeah. But
they put it down to 40 and 50 for no reason.
I know.
It just causes traffic.
By contrast, the M40 is my favourite motorway.
Oh, M40, lovely. Want to get off the M42, but I just don't get it, Jeff, why they put it down to 40. It just creates traffic.
Yeah.
If you head out on 70, you're free flow.
That's not what the motoring experts will tell you.
They ain't got a clue as well.
Yeah, my other pet is the M1. Yeah, that's a living nightmare.
Roadworks for the last M6 as well on the way to Manchester.
Yeah.
Roadwork for 30 years. It's incredible.
Now that we are continuing to dissect all the fallout from Sunday's World Cup final, and Argentina's behaviour during and after the match against Spain. Martin Keown was on the mid-morning show yesterday. He explained how uncomfortable he found it to watch Argentina at times.
I find it hard to watch Fernandes. I find it hard to watch Paredes. There is an attitude to their players. Is it in them, the way that they're educated, the way that they grow up? They just have this about them where they want to leave something on everybody. You know, they're not satisfied with just getting to an opponent. They've got to push someone. Step on someone. It's just what they do, and I think we should be trying to stamp that out a little bit with the refereeing going forward, so a team can't do that, can't be as physical as they were, because it does impinge on you when you're trying to finish and someone's pushing you. Is it really a foul, isn't it? But nonetheless, he's still stopping you being at your best in front of goal.
Look, FIFA have launched an official investigation into Argentina following the scenes after the full-time whistle of the final. So there could be some suspensions, some bans handed out. The Argentine Football Association may also be fined. But what's been the reaction in Argentina? Look, let's find out from not only a native, but someone who knows South American football better than most. It's a very good morning to the former Newell's Old Boys defender, Matty Fondata. Morning to you, Matty.
Morning, Matty.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Within Argentina, are people surprised by the reaction of the rest of the world?
Last couple of games, it's been the same. You know, it looked like the world was against us for some reason. I mean, I don't even know exactly the reason, but we felt that. We felt that since Cape Verde, let's say, or even Egypt, or even Switzerland game, there was something like a kind of feeling that happened.
Matty, I only had the feeling majority in the final. I just felt that I'm all up for being physical. Do you know what I mean? When I played, I like to leave a bit on players and be physical and show that you're a strong player and no one's going to push you over. But I think certain players went above that line, especially Paredes. I mean, some of his tackling and getting away with yellow cards. But what stood out for me was after the final whistle. Once he's grabbing Garcia by the neck and he's throwing Gabby on the floor, I think that's too far. Do you agree on that?
I completely agree on that. I mean, do I agree with that? No, 100% no. Do I understand that? I don't even know what happened there and why his reaction was like that. You know, the emotions are on a different level. But to be brutally honest, I'm not happy with what happened after the game mainly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think everyone was shocked by what happened after the game. I think during the game, Matty, you can see that sort of us against the rest of the world mentality, which is fine. It's what a lot of people want to install. It's just when you overstep that line. But clearly it's seen differently in Argentina because the president's going to award a national holiday.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's mainly the kind of reward for the whole, for this generation of players, not only because of this World Cup. Obviously, no one is happy that we lost the final, absolutely no one. But I think it's a kind of reward to 5 or 6 years of some consistent way of playing, and the country felt kind of identified with how this team played during the last Copa America, last World Cup, last two Copa America, last two World Cup. And let's say this World Cup, besides the fact that, in the final, there was only one team on the pitch, and we need to accept that. The better, I say that this is like the World Cup of justice, because we spoke before the semi-final. I think the 4 best teams got to the semi-final. Then the 2 better teams in the semi-finals got to the final, and it's a fair champion because Spain played the best football of the whole World Cup, you know. And I'm saying this with pain and with sadness, but yeah, I think it was a fair champion. But this holiday thing, I think it's most a reward to a great leader like Scaloni. Was very respectful, very balanced since day one, and he got everyone against him when he took the job because he didn't manage any team before. It's a very unusual story. So I think all this holiday thing and the way people receive the players in the airport has more to do with the kind of reward for the whole process.
I think it has been a fantastic generation, hasn't it, of players and what they've won. Like you said, 2 Copa Americas, the World Cup. Do you look at this group of players now, though, with some of them getting a bit older, that there needs to be a new generation coming through, you know, younger players that are given a chance?
Yeah, everyone's been talking about this these last couple of days. Half of the players are going to be plus 35, so we're seeing them. I mean, there might be a special situation of any player making it, but in general, yeah, there's a new generation of young players coming, and even the manager said that we need like a kind of renewal in all senses because of a logical process of unfortunately it couldn't be with the World Cup, but they gave everything. That's another thing that people reward here. They gave everything. The whole World Cup, coming from behind in many games, and the semi-final was a very emotional game. You know the story, but when we talk about the history between Argentina and England and all the clashes in the World Cups and 2 big national teams. So again, there are some players that probably are not going to make it. I would say half of the team will still be on an age. I mean, even if they get picked or not, are still on a decent age to play the next World Cup.
Matty, do you think we've seen the last of Lionel Messi on the world stage in those big tournaments?
We're all hoping not, but it's his decision. I mean, he's 39. I've heard that the Finalissima it's going to be played in November or December, something like that. My hope is that he's still there for that game. But yeah, it's going to be very personal. If you ask me, if I see him still playing, I would say he showed everyone that he can still be, for the big stages. But I don't know. It's going to be like a personal decision, and you can tell that also he's, he looks like done with everything.
Matty, enjoy the national holiday.
Thank you, Matty.
Oh, thank you very much, guys.
Yes. Matty Fondata, the former Newell's Old Boys defender there. And I knew this would happen, by the way. Just as controversial as Argentina's tactics against Spain, which is the worst stretch of motorway in the country. Ian, who's a Newcastle fan, says worst motorway has to be the A1 in Northumberland, the main motorway in the country, that's 1 lane just after Morpeth. Big Len, who's a Villa fan, says M6 at Wednesbury.
Yes.
Pick any time of the day, any day of the week, and you are guaranteed to be stuck in traffic.
Makes you not want to drive to Manchester, to be honest. Like, it's horrendous.
Well, you try driving anywhere in this country after 10 o'clock at night.
Oh, don't get me started. I was doing the Villa gigs at the warehouse, Jeff. I'm thinking, yes, after the game, 2 hours 20. Sat-nav says 3 hours 35. Motorway closed, always. Honestly, forever closing motorways on night.
Yeah. Mali wasn't impressed with that, by the way. He said he doesn't know why it's Argentina against the world. Typical biased view from an Argentina sore loser. Thanks, Mali. Still to come on Breakfast.
Breakfast preview on talkSPORT with Travis Perkins. Spend £100 or more with a Travis Perkins trade account and you could win a brand new Ford Ranger. T's and C's apply.
We'll continue to remember the legend that is Kevin Keegan, who's loved both on and off the pitch. TV presenter and one of Kev's great friends, Pete Graves, shared his memories of the great man on talkSPORT.
And now I'm sitting here in Florida. He came here with his wife and his daughters and his grandkids, and they had a great time. But I was winding him up because his nickname as a player was Mighty Mouse, and he was obviously walking around Disneyland. And I was sort of saying, "Oh, is Mighty Mouse going to meet Mickey Mouse and everything?"
We'll be joined just after 7 by a man who was part of Keegan's iconic entertainers side, Warren Barton, who'll no doubt have some stories of his own for us. And that was our breakfast preview with our friends at Travis Perkins.
Breakfast preview on talkSPORT with Travis Perkins. Spend £100 or more at any Travis Perkins Hire or Benchmarks branch as a trade account holder, and you could win a brand new Ford Ranger. T's and C's apply.
Viva España. Thank you, Spain. Muchas gracias, España. Ferran Torres, you absolute beauty. You have saved football, because from start to finish, whether it's Tom Cruise's pathetic speech about unity in front of Donald Trump, whether it's the game starting 6 minutes late, whether it's the disgraceful refereeing which allowed Argentina to push, scratch, foul and dive their way into extra time, whether it's the most egregious decision to chalk off Nico Williams' opener, whether it's the ridiculous halftime show which wasn't even good, or Infantino chasing after Donald Trump after the trophy was handed out. This World Cup in so many ways was an absolute circus, and Argentina, who might have produced two of the world's best players, have been an ugly addition to this World Cup, and I'm glad they got their just desserts. The only shining light in the stadium was Spain, and I've just enjoyed the biggest hate watch of my life. Thank you, Spain. You've saved football.
Max, I'm with you all the way, mate. Look, it was a boring game.
It was a terrible game.
It was a terrible game, wasn't it? It wasn't great, was
Argentina made it terrible.
Yeah,
the ref made it terrible. Good morning, this is talkSPORT Breakfast. I'm Jeff Stelling Gabby Agbonlahor is with me. Bit of Cat Stevens and Wild Word on your radio this morning. Tune. It is a great tune. It's the singer's 78th birthday today. And of course, he became Yusuf Islam after he converted to Muslimism. But Cat Stevens wasn't his real name.
Okay.
Yeah, never his real name. His real name was Stephen Demetre Georgiou, which he thought was never going to be a name that would have that sort of ring of success to it. So he called himself Cat because he thought, oh, people love animals, don't they? So that's why he called himself Cat.
Makes sense.
Cat Stevens, and some great songs, Father and Son. Yes. Fantastic. I go right back to the first Cat Stevens, Lady W.
You know what, Jeff, as well? Some songs are for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, you can have a certain type of music you like, but songs like this, everyone will like.
Yeah. And I think it was at Glastonbury not so very long ago as well. So we sort of come full circle.
Of course.
Now we've been paying tribute all morning to the legend that is King Kevin Keegan. 03717223344, the number to call. Michael's a Newcastle fan. He's given us a call. Good morning to you, Michael.
Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, boys. How are you?
Yeah, we're good. We're good, thanks, mate. So, look, as a Newcastle fan, you would inevitably have adored Kevin Keegan.
Well, I love Kevin Keegan. I'm 77 years old, and I've seen him as a player for Newcastle and also as a manager for Newcastle. And I just wanted to phone in to tell you the type of man he was. My wife, in the 90s, walked into a coffee bar in Newcastle, and Kevin was there with Terry McDermott, and she walked up to him and said, "Mr. Keegan, I want to say hello. My husband is a Newcastle fan," and his first words to her were, "You can call me Kev." He was a gentleman.
Yeah, Michael, man of the people, I think there's no doubt about that.
Legend.
People's champion, really. Michael, thank you very much indeed for that memory. Gabby, you've got something on your mind?
Yeah, on my mind. Yeah, I've just seen that John Duran has gone to Benfica on loan. I just want to say that, like, when he left Aston Villa, everyone was a bit annoyed, Villa fans, but the manager done the right thing. Left Aston Villa to Al Nassr in January 2025, 71 million. Since then, Jeff, he's been on loan at Fenerbahce, Zenit, and now Benfica. And there's a buy option in the loan of 22 million. He's 22 years of age. In 17 months, look at what's happened to him. Sometimes players are bad eggs, and well done on Unai Emery on getting him out.
Well, you know, he's young enough to turn it around, though, isn't he?
Don't look like it. Every manager he's around seems to want him out the door.
Yeah. He has spiralled down the pecking order, there's no doubt.
Great player, though.
Yeah, when his time at Villa. Do you have him back?
No. I think he caused carnage in that changing room, so, yeah.
Right, it's 6:52. Time to look at the back pages with Costa Express.
The Costa Coffee Break on talkSPORT, sponsored by Costa Express. Kick off your day with a quality coffee on the go from Costa Express.
And Laura Francis's...
Kirk. Don't forget Kirk.
Where's she gone? You're there.
I've snuck over here.
Yeah.
I've snuck this
Good
side.
morning, Laura Kirk Francis.
Morning, how are we doing?
Yeah,
Feels quite weird
good,
looking at you from this side.
You got to be able to, different sides.
Yeah, you guys look great from over here as well. Your back pages today are, of course, all around Kevin Keegan across the front and the back pages this morning. The Daily Mail's Ollie Holt calls him a riot of colour and flame in a grey world. He calls him slight of stature, but Keegan had the biggest heart that ever beat in the chest of an English footballer. Daily Star, there's only one Kevin Keegan, a true icon who is a hero to millions. They call him a national treasure, king of Newcastle. And get this, imagine the fuss in this era if an Englishman won the Ballon d'Or twice in a row. I think that's completely fair. The Guardian's Rob Draper has called him a footballing pioneer and superstar. The Sun called him an all-time great, a fearless superstar and an idol to millions. I think what's most telling, though, is both the Telegraph and in the Times call, not just calling him a superstar, but they focus on the impact that he had on other people, which I think is so telling when we lose someone. In the Telegraph, Keegan wore his heart on his sleeve and fans loved him for it. Martin Samuel in the Times says he was smart, sensitive. Keegan brought joy to millions. It's always really telling, isn't it, when we hear about not just the achievements, but how someone like Kevin Keegan made other people feel. Jeff, what were your early memories of Keegan as a player? You know, lots of people remember him maybe later on in his career as a manager, but what was he like as a player, and what did he mean to English football? He was probably one of the earliest superstars. He walked so the likes of David Beckham could run, basically. What were your memories of him?
Well, curly perm. That's the first memory, really. You know, whenever I envisage Kevin Keegan, I envisage him with that curly perm. It wasn't always the case, of course. The great thing was that, you know, he came from grassroots level, if you like, at Scunthorpe United. But you could do it in those days. There were other people who did just that as well. Ray Clements is the one that comes to mind immediately. To go and play at the top level, the highest level. And with Keegan, whether it was player or coach, you knew what you got. You know, he put his heart and soul and his passion and his drive in absolutely everything. And he would tell you he wasn't necessarily the most skillful player on the pitch every game, but he was the most determined. And it's interesting, in all the tributes, you know, positive tributes are great to hear, but generally speaking, you always have somebody who's got something to say, haven't you, that's not quite as positive, something a little bit snide. Not with Kevin Keegan.
No.
Not with Kevin Keegan. Universally loved. And, you know, I've got so many memories of him, as I say, you mentioned it before, you know, doing TV ads for aftershave and things like that, appearing on Superstars.
Sugar Puffs as well. Was he doing something with Honey Monster?
But because he was absolutely,
he had the charisma.
You know, he was the man that everybody wanted. Yeah. Everybody wanted to see, you know, and he played in some great Liverpool sides and, of course, went on to manage you know, some great players, particularly at Newcastle.
Yeah. I think as well, when you hear players that played under him, reminds me a bit of like Martin O'Neill in a way of like the old school managers. They were hard when they needed to be, but they loved to take the mick out you. You know, they loved to have the banter, to have a joke, to come to the back of the coach and take the mick out of players. You were a bit scared that the gaff was coming down.
Yeah.
So he had that presence as well.
Yeah.
So it seems like a manager that I would have loved to have played.
And if you look at his achievements as well, we've talked about who he was, his manager as well, but 3 First Divisions, an FA Cup, a European Cup, 2 UEFA Cups, a Bundesliga title, 2 Ballon d'Ors, 63 caps for England, over 700 club appearances. As a player, Gabby, does that put into perspective,
of course,
how unbelievable he was?
I think if you put all that to the side and you say 2 Ballon d'Ors, you're like, okay then, let's go and look at all the clips. And that's what I actually did. Like a few months ago, I'm like, I was like, what? Okay, then I'm going to have a look. Goal scorer, finisher, composure, everything. That's the way you set it. Like when you win a Ballon d'Or, no matter what era, you're the best player in Europe. Like, says so much.
But it's the way he maintained his normality as well, despite all of his success. Brian in Liverpool just said when he was a young lad, he used to help the milkman. He said on Saturdays they'd get the sort of Keegan home. He said, and Kevin would come out and play football with us in the street. You know?
I've been hearing all morning people who went and got an autograph, as you were discussing, always had time for people. And we heard stories of where he'd told the security guards off for pushing people away who wanted an autograph. I'll just leave you with this quote as well that Martin Samuels pulled out. Kevin Keegan once said, statues are for dead people. But maybe now is the time that we can honour Kevin Keegan
100%.
with a statue. I think that'd be a wonderful tribute.
Fully deserved.
Absolutely.
I think the only issue is, where would you put it? Newcastle, Liverpool, you know,
both, multiple.
Yes, multiple.
One in Hamburg as well, and Scunthorpe,
yes.
of course. Yeah, there's too many, basically, too many places. Statues everywhere for Kevin Keegan.
As I say, he's one of those people who, in life, you think, oh God, I wish I'd met him.
Yeah,
wish I'd met him. Laura, thank you very much indeed. Coming up, we continue to pay tribute to an icon of the English game in Kevin Keegan. One of his Newcastle entertainers is with us next, Warren Barton.
The Costa Coffee Break on talkSPORT, sponsored by Costa Express. Kick off your day with a quality coffee on the go from Costa Express.
Gabby, well done to Spain. Argentina were an absolute disgrace.
Yes, last night, I felt like I won last night watching. I felt like football was the winner. Anti-football lost. Shame that Messi's probably last World Cup game was a game where his team didn't try and play football. Disgraceful tactics that have worked all through the World Cup. They've bullied teams. And last night, they tried to bully Spain and it didn't work. Finally, a referee who decided to give a few bookings. Could he give a lot more?
Oh, well, how was Paredes still on?
Especially to Paredes and other players. But at least he gave that second yellow card to Enzo Fernandez, who deserved to get sent off football's the winner once again, which is what we wanted to see in the Champions League, football being the winner, and also in the World Cup.
Yeah, that Enzo Fernandez. I've never met him. He must be a lovely bloke, mustn't he? After the England game, when he said he likes the English because everyone who cleans and cooks at his house is English.
Wow.
I mean, it's breathtakingly arrogant, to say the least, you know.
What football ground are you thinking of when someone says this?
Really tough place to go. Difficult place to go. Such a tough place to go.
It's a tough place to go at the moment.
It was a really difficult place to go, always.
But what are the toughest places to go, really? We've scoured the planet to find out. Forget a cold, wet Tuesday night in Stoke. Try playing in a blizzard 220 miles inside the Arctic Circle at the world's northernmost professional club. When Chelsea lost at Tromsø in Norway in the 97-98 Cup Winners' Cup, a massive snowstorm hit at half-time. These two boys and their brooms were absolutely no match for it. We're staying in Scandinavia for Scotland's toughest away day on a windswept cliff in the Faroe Islands. In Euro 2000 qualifying, Craig Brown's men were taken to fishing village Toftir. Kevin Gallagher called the pitch a cowfield and the wind like Pittodrie on a bad day. The Faroe Islands part-timers equalised in stoppage time, leading to these absolute scenes, and still one of Scotland's most embarrassing results.
Daft little ground, silly game.
But away trips don't come any tougher than a lung-busting schlep up the Andes to face Bolivia in La Paz. But now the Bolivians have taken home advantage to another level. The country's highest city, El Alto, 4,100 metres above sea level. Grass doesn't even grow up here. Bolivia have not lost here yet. The longest unbeaten run in any professional league ever belongs to Red Star Belgrade, or Crvena Zvezda if you must. They've gone 7 years without defeat at the Rajko Mitic in Serbia's Superliga. Their fans are pretty intimidating as well, but they're not as loud as this mob. Galatasaray's Ali Sami Yen Stadium's officially the loudest in world football. In a derby with Fenerbahce, Galatasaray fans set a Guinness World Record of 131 decibels. That's louder than Motorhead, and pretty tough to carry out your manager's instructions when you can't even hear them. However, our most intimidating away day is in Wales, where cameras can't enter and players can't leave. HMP Prescoed. This prison team was briefly kicked out the Gwent League over concerns about young opposition having to go in there. Now that's a tough place to go.
Early June 1939, Germany, always a tough place to go to.
Good morning, this is talkSPORT Breakfast. I'm Jeff Stelling alongside Gabby Agbonlahor at 7:03 on Tuesday, July 21st. We're here with Arnold Clark. It's the perfect time to upgrade your car. Get 2 years free servicing when you buy a used car in the upgrade event. Check it out online. Now, we are remembering the life of Kevin Keegan this morning. He passed away yesterday afternoon at the age of 75. I got a text from Griff from King's Lynn. Said, it's strange. He said, but this has made me smile this morning. Just talking about Kevin Keegan, that's the effect he had on my childhood. I think Griff speaks for many people. He was a man loved all over the footballing world, but especially in Newcastle.
The only thing I've ever said is I wanted what I was promised when I took the job, and I said that last week, and that there was money there for players, and I think that's essential, not just for the present time at Newcastle United, but to plan for the future.
He had a passion and desire to win, not win at all costs, but win the right way.
Take a club that was languishing down the bottom of the Championship to 2 or 3 years later challenging to become Premier League champions.
Looking for number 5 with Philippe Albert. Oh!
5-0 might have flattered us, but I mean, we hit the post. Schmeichel made some good saves.
And he gave them a brilliant football team that played some great football.
You can tell him now, I'll be watching it, we're still fighting for this title, and he's got to go to Middlesbrough and get something. And I'll tell you, honestly, I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
You know, sometimes that worked, like that day, the 5-0.
Collymore closing in!
The famous Anfield game where we lost 4-3.
Kevin Keegan hangs his head. He's devastated.
He will always be loved from the people of Newcastle for what he achieved for their football club. And he always put them first, and that's what mattered.
Yeah, I'm pleased to say joining us now is a man who can speak on Kevin as a manager, a player and a friend. He was part of the iconic entertainers side, the Grace Tynes side under Kevin Keegan. It's a very good morning to Warren Barton. Morning, Warren.
Morning, Warren.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Yeah, you're fine, thanks, man. I'm just thinking that, Warren, despite all of his personal success, whether as a player or as a manager, we just had that text from Griff saying, talking about Kevin Keegan just brought a smile to my face this morning. And what a legacy that is, that your memory, just your memory, brings a smile to people's faces.
Yeah, you're right, Jeff. I was okay until I just heard that little montage that you put together, and it just brings so many great memories, sad memories now, obviously, that we didn't get over the finishing line, not just for him, but also for the fans as well in that time. But he was such a gentleman on and off the field. He made you feel special. Gabby would relate to it, that certain managers just have a certain way of giving you confidence, giving you belief. And whether it was Alan Shearer, David Ginola, Les Ferdinand and myself, or Rob Lee, he would treat us all differently, but knew how to press our buttons. And make sure that we was going out there, and made it pretty clear earlier on that we was playing for the fans. They was working hard Monday to Friday, and we better bloody go out there and perform for the fans and give them something to entertain. And what was lovely, that time at Newcastle, the mid-90s with Kevin, as the whole place of Newcastle was vibrant, it was energetic. People wanted to go up there and watch the games. The club wouldn't be where it was without Sir John Hall and Kevin Keegan. And I owe him everything. He gave me that opportunity. He drove down. There was a game with Newcastle against Blackburn. He drove down in the morning, come and met me in a hotel in London and tapped me on the shoulder and said, come and join a big club. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have had nearly 8 years up there, 220 odd games, captain that football club. And what he wanted to do more than anything is to make the people up there proud of their football club. And he did that. And they adored him. They loved him. And him and Sir Bobby Robson are cut from the same cloth they understand the people, they understand what it was about. And as I said, there's not a day go by that I don't think about if we'd done that for him. And that's something that he would have, relished and cheered, not just him personally, because, we forget sometimes, 2 Ballon d'Ors, he won so many trophies, he went to Germany and was a great success. But just as a manager and a person, we're going to miss him, because he was a special person. And at that time of my life, I was mid-20s, early 20s. It's the best time of my life. The people that I played football with, I was lucky enough and privileged to play for Kevin Keegan. And just to have him as a mentor and as a person is sad. And we was trying to figure out something, the entertainers in the coming weeks, to try and surprise him a little bit, going to St James's Park. But unfortunately, that wasn't to be. But, gentlemen, we've been in football long enough that it's so ironic that the first game at St James's Park is Liverpool, and I can only imagine what the feeling's going to be and how we're going to be there. But we love him, we missed him, and as I said, him and Bobby Robson, it was just a special play. Gabby, and Jeff, you was up there at St James's at that time. It was unique. It just had magic in the air, and that was down to Kevin Keegan.
Warren, I said earlier, Martin O'Neill's my favourite manager, and there was a manager in Martin O'Neill that, even when he was angry, I look forward to seeing him in the morning. I can't say that about any other manager. His stories, his banter, the way he lifts you, his man management. Have you got any stories about Kevin Keegan? Because he seems like that sort of manager that everyone loved.
Yeah, listen, I've had a few rockets off of him in my time, and Martin Tyler spoke well about it, is that, yes, he was a lovely man, but also he knew how to get people, he'd speak to David, he'd speak to Les in a certain way. And I used to share the room with Les Ferdinand for a couple of years, and Kevin had a really strong rapport with Les and loved him. And I think he see a lot of himself in Les, how he was, very charming, wanted to please people. But Kevin wasn't the best dresser in the world. He thought he was getting suits made in London. And Les was a very stylish guy, a good-looking fellow, obviously. And he'd come into our room with these little Matador jackets that Kevin would wear that he'd had made in London. And he looked like a little Spanish waiter. And he'd come in our room, do a little pirouette, and Les would be chuckling, I'll be laughing, and Les would go, "You're looking tricky, Gaffer, you're looking tricky." And Kevin would walk out knowing that we've took the piss out of him, but that was part of him. And, coming home from the trips from London or down south, and we'd stop off at Leeds and go and get fish and chips. Walking up and down there, making sure that everyone's got their ketchup, salt and vinegar, and who's got fish and chips, and making sure Tino's okay, making sure, just a great man. And as I said, it's only now, gentlemen, when you sit back and hear things and see things and you think, wow, what a time that was, because it was the best time of my life. Not only playing, but personally and everything that goes with it. And, my first game, he made sure that I had, 12, 13 of my family coming up to the game, put them in a hotel, looked after them, made sure everything was okay, picking them up from the train station. And he did that to everybody, whether it was a new player coming in or whether it's someone that had been there for a long time. And I remember sitting down with Les and Peter Beardsley about February time, and when the title race was going on, and just said, look, do you think we should maybe shore it up a little bit? And Peter turned around and said, no, he's going to do it his way or no way. That's the only way. And that was Kevin,
Yeah.
And then 18 months later, unfortunately, he walked away because he didn't feel like the club was in the right direction. But, that's in the past, and we just want to remember him as just a great football man, because there ain't too many of them around. We looked at that final at the weekend. That ain't football that we just see. Kevin Keegan, would have hated stuff like that. But it was an honour. It was an honour and a privilege to know him, and for him to come and buy me and be there for that length of time was a privilege.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that game. This is not intended in any way as a slight to Thomas Tuchel, but a texter suggested earlier on that there was no way on earth, if we'd have gone 1-0 up against Argentina under Kevin Keegan, that we'd have then sat back. It just wasn't something he did, was it?
No, but we might have lost 4-3 like we did against Liverpool twice. But we would have a go doing it, and that was his way. Anyway, I remember Sky did a great piece that we had 5,000 or 6,000 people watching us train at Maiden Castle, and there was a hamburger stall there, and famous picture of Kevin and Terry McDermott sitting on top of the hamburger stall with their feet hanging over the edge, having a cup of tea and a bacon sandwich while we're watching us train with 5,000 or 6,000 people around there, covered in snow and watching a game. And he just wanted us to entertain. He just said to us as soon as we got to that club, is that you make sure you go out at a weekend and give them fans something to cheer about and be proud of it. And we tried our best, but unfortunately, we failed, but we had a really bloody good go at doing it.
Yeah. It's no consolation to his friends like you, Warren, or his family, but he will never be forgotten. And whenever we think of Kevin Keegan, we will definitely do it with a smile 100%. On our face. That's for sure. Look, Warren, thank you very much indeed, mate.
Thank you, Warren. Top man.
No, absolute pleasure. As I said, I wish you both well, and I wish it was in different circumstances. Yeah. But you're right. You can only smile about Kevin 100%. Because he was a lovely man and a good football man. But I wish you all the best, gentlemen. Good luck.
Thank you,
Warren, thank you so much. Former Newcastle defender and entertainer under Kevin Keegan.
You want to hear those stories, don't you, Jeff? You want to hear those funny stories about the ones you left Ferdinand, and that's what great that talkSPORT got Warren Barton.
I mentioned nobody, and rightly, nobody's got a bad word about Kevin. Ian says, as a 9-year-old in 1982, I saw the England team leave for the World Cup in Spain. Kevin Keegan was the only person to have a picture with me. It lives with me today. I still have that picture at my mum's house. And Mark, the Saints fan, says Kevin Keegan was a legend. We at Southampton will hold him dear in our hearts as he chose Southampton after Hamburg. His book is a fantastic read. It just tells anyone reading it that everyone can achieve their goals. He was repeatedly told that he wouldn't make it as he was so small. The rest is history. And Mark said, I would love it, just love it, if you read this one out. This is talkSPORT Breakfast.
27 and a half minutes was how long half-time was. That's a disgrace in and of itself. We know that. We know it's a load of tosh. But if you're going to make football showbiz, at least do it well. They started with a clearly pre-recorded Madonna song.
Oh, yeah.
I know. It was like Mario Kart Double Dash with Ronaldo just sat there smiling. And they've had Justin Bieber playing a song nobody knows with a guitar that's not tuned properly. And then, I mean, we don't mind a bit of Shakira, really, but Shakira was the only highlight. But we could have had that in 15 minutes.
Decent. Although Burna Boy was trying to get a bit too close, you know what I mean? He's trying to get a wine.
Honestly.
He's only.
And also the irony of having the Muppets there, puppets there.
Oh, what was that about?
In Gianni Infantino's World Cup halftime.
They've overdone it, didn't they?
It was shocking, absolutely shocking. The whole Spain saved it.
Yeah.
Because it was a dark day for football until Ferran Torres, the absolute beauty, came up.
And let's talk about. Hold on. We've got to talk about at the end when they're lifting up the trophy. What's Donald Trump? What's Donald Trump doing? Like, he's trying to get a photo up again. He tried to do it with Chelsea, like in the Club World Cup. Now he's trying to do it at the World Cup. Trying to be. Listen, and then
Good morning, this is talkSPORT Breakfast Time. Jeff Stelling Gabby Agbonlahor is with me. Sad day yesterday as football lost one of its true greats, Kevin Keegan, who passed away aged 75. A lot of people asking the same question. Jason, who's a Man United fan, says, why was he never knighted? He was in the same bracket as Sir Bobby Charlton. Everyone knew who he was and what he did for football. Absolutely loved Kevin Keegan growing up, even though I was a United fan. talkSPORT's Mickey Gray would have spent 5 years playing against Keegan's Newcastle sides up in the northeast for Sunderland, and yet it's Keegan who gave Mickey his first England cap in 1999. Mickey joined the station yesterday. He spoke on the impact Kevin Keegan had on the northeast of England.
He actually ran the Great North Run in half a Newcastle and half a Sunderland shirt. Nobody would have got away with that. Only Kevin Keegan.
Yes.
And it was fantastic. And that was what he was about. You know, I think I said earlier, you know, I spoke to quite a few people about this now, but he actually put the Northeast back on the map.
Yes.
You know, went through a bit of a difficult period where all the sides in the Northeast, or the three big sides, if you like, they weren't doing really well. And Kevin then just emerged at Newcastle and built this team, got them promoted. And obviously we know they were challenging for the Premier League for a few seasons as well. And he was bringing players to the Northeast that wouldn't have dreamt to come to the Northeast. And I think it was the fact that Kevin Keegan came to Newcastle and brought this entertaining football that the top stars wanted to sign for Kevin Keegan and be a part of that at Newcastle.
Yeah, I mean, the list of players that he brought there, obviously Alan Shearer is the most obvious, but David Ginola, Philippe Albert, Les Ferdinand, Tino Asprilla. I mean, they had one thing in common. Yeah, well, they were great entertainers, you know, and I know it's a cliche, but they were sort of cavaliers.
But even when I look at the clips, Jeff, and I remember like that rant that he went on, and you see that they were 12 points ahead, even now I'm like, oh, why can't I just get it over the line?
Yeah, you know
over
what?
the years, even though I wasn't like, I was quite young then, it was like, oh, 12 points ahead.
What people forget after that, you know, was what Keegan managed to do, even though they lost there and then they lost against Blackburn. I think it's a credit to his management. he managed to get them back on track. They won 4 of their next 5 games.
Yep.
They drew the last couple of games, and that was what ultimately cost them the title as well. But he got them playing again. He got them winning again, even after that defeat against Liverpool.
Seeing that Albert dink, that goal, it's incredible looking back.
Philip Albert was some player.
What a striker of a ball.
More tributes to Kevin Keegan throughout the morning. If you want to give us a call with your memories, 03717 223344 is the number to call. But now we're a month away from the beginning of the Premier League season, can you believe? The transfer market very much hotting up now the World Cup is over. And, of course, the big news yesterday, Morgan Rogers, seemingly an Arsenal target, but agreeing a deal with Chelsea for £170 million from Aston Villa. So, huge signing for Xabi Alonso, as, of course, Rogers was a player very much on the wanted list by multiple clubs. Is this a statement of intent for Chelsea Football Club? Let's bring in the host of Chelsea Fan TV, Alex Harris, to give us more on this. Morning, Alex.
Morning, Alex.
Good morning, guys. Good to be back.
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, as a Chelsea fan, you must be delighted. Where does he play?
I think he plays on the left. I think it's, to be honest with you, like, I heard that at Arsenal he would have been a left winger, and we were sort of saying to him that you could play in a variety of positions, maybe in a 10, maybe on the right-hand side. And I think that's fair enough, because we haven't really had a lot of stability over the past few years. Like, we do change formations. I think a 4-2-3-1 is the main formation we've used, but there's a good chance that Xabi Alonso potentially plays a back three with some wing backs. So, like, I can't say with certainty where he's going to play, but you would presume on the left, because he's a clear upgrade on Gittins and Garnacho. I'd rather have him on the left than Neto, and Palmer down the middle. You know, that's what we've been doing for the past couple of seasons, so I don't see why that would change. And yeah, I think, like, a lot of people were complaining, not in terms of the signing, but in terms of the position, you know, because we would prioritise a left back like Lacroix. But even still, like, it's a clear upgrade. And so even if you've got loads of left wingers, it's important that you have one that's actually decent. And that's where this signing is so critical, because, you know, Arsenal are interested. I think a number of sides would have been looking at a player like Morgan Rogers. And he's got so many qualities that you'd want in any side. And I think the main driving factor is that he's looking at this Chelsea team and he's going, I'm going to start every week. There's no way that Garnacho's playing ahead of me, etc. And I think he was pretty impressed with what Xabi Alonso had to say as well. What I will say is that I saw a brief that every single director from Chelsea was involved in this transfer, as if they deserve credit for this negotiation. You know, we've spent 117 million, so we haven't exactly driven a bargain, really, have we? And Eghbali again has to get involved to get the transfer over the line. So for me, this is an Eghbali deal, and that's fine. But, you know, with the directors, I don't really understand why they would get any credit for this. You know, if we were spending 80 million, then it's totally different. You go, okay, that's
I think when you look at the signing, Alex, I know him very well. Obviously, Aston Villa supporter. Even if Alonso does play that 3-4-2-1 that he liked at Leverkusen and play 2 10s, he could play Palmer and Rogers as 2 10s, but he can play off the left, not off the right. Doesn't suit him over there. But what you got, mate, from this player is somebody who will receive the ball under pressure, and I've never seen a player who can drive with the ball. He's quicker when he's running with the ball. He's got such strength, skill, and he can finish as well. Honestly, you've got an all-round top player here in Morgan Rogers, and I think he's going to get better and better. Let's not forget, he's only 23. He's going to learn a lot from Alonso, and I think it's going to be a huge success at Chelsea Football Club.
I think that's another reason we spend the money, because people are going, why didn't we spend 20 million on Xhaka? The guy's 10 years older. So actually, when you look at Rodgers, like, we all know that Chelsea like signing young players. And so he fits perfectly into the model in that sense. But this is what we were promised years ago, that we would sign the best young players. And this is what we were promised. So thanks 4 years later for actually getting something done. But listen, better late than never. I think, I think we'll get Lacroix over the line. And I think, honestly, even just getting that deal done, and obviously Palestra as a fullback as well, like it's a much better window. You know, this is what Chelsea fans have been asking for: a couple of ready-made players, a couple of decent players. And we can't complain about that. Listen, if they get injured and the manager struggles, that's one thing. But I'd rather sign 2 or 3 really solidified players than 6 or 7 young guys that, to be honest, a lot of people haven't necessarily even heard of.
And touch wood, he doesn't miss a minute, mate. He literally plays every game under Unai Emery. Like, he must never be in the red zone and the risk of injury. Touch wood, it carries on for him.
Yeah, and Alex, I know you don't want to give praise to the director. Whose responsibility this was, who knows? I mean, obviously, Xabi Alonso spoke directly to Morgan Rogers. Reece James apparently spoke to him during the course of the World Cup. Cole Palmer was texting him as well. But it's a coup, isn't it? Because, you know, with the best one in the world, Chelsea 10th last season. They got no Champions League football last season. And we presume he could have gone to the title holders with Champions League football next season in Arsenal. So it's a massive coup for Chelsea.
I think that the most impressive thing is the speed of the deal. I mean, you've got to give credit for that, right? I think that one of the most annoying things is constantly seeing these briefs. You know, we're negotiating. We're thinking about this player. We're trying to find a wage that works for everyone. And it's just like, for crying out loud, I don't want to hear that. Just like you don't want to hear that England played well, but we lost, right? Nobody cares. Go and win, i.e. go and sign the player and then everyone's happy. So, like, when you put it in black and white, it's a great signing. Yeah. Sure, we overspent. We beat Arsenal and we were very, very efficient in that sense. So they definitely deserve credit for that. I think
it's exciting as well, the relationship he's got with Palmer. They're really good friends, same celebration. I'm sure you'll see the best of Palmer as well with someone he can play off in Morgan Rogers.
Yeah, I don't really... I don't know the formation we're going to play. So, like, it's difficult for me to really visualize exactly what's going to happen. I think that if we've got wing backs, they can overlap and Rodgers can come on the inside with Palmer, something like that. That would be really nice to see. But listen, the most important thing is we've got someone who's 100% an upgrade. It's clear. And if he doesn't perform, it's his fault, right? Because the pressure's on him now. It's not like we've brought in someone who's never played at this level. Another great thing is the fact that he's actually willing to shoot.
Yes.
And the problem is we don't score enough goals from outside the box. And I don't necessarily know if Morgan Rogers' conversion rate is great, but when you shoot a certain amount of times, you are going to score eventually. And he scored some cracking goals from outside the box. So that's something else that is going to be a good bit of variety for this team.
Alex, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you, Alex.
Dave is an Arsenal fan. He says, yeah, it'll be great for Chelsea like he was for us in the World Cup. We dodged a bullet. Come on,
he's a
get real. Get real.
Jeff,
he had such limited opportunities in the World Cup.
I watched him, obviously, Jeff, Aston Villa fan, and like I had to message him last night. I said to him, listen, thank you for everything you've done for my football club. Wish you all the best in the future. He replied, thank you, mate. I really appreciate it. And I want every Villa fan to be like that. With Digne, with Tielemans, with Rodgers, these players won our first trophy since 1982 and have been a fantastic group of players for his football club. They've moved on now, no problem. I'm sure we will get a good standing ovation when he comes back to Villa Park, Morgan Rogers.
And we'll talk about it more later on, but it's a body blow for Unai Emery again.
Oh,
I mean, he was like Unai Emery's son.
That's what I said yesterday. Gaffer's son he is.
Yeah, so and I think maybe we'll discuss Unai Emery and his future a little later.
Yeah, the problem is as well, Jeff, like he was everything to our attacks.
Yeah.
You know, you had that one player, Jeff, who could like run with the ball and drive. We had Jacob Ramsey could do it. Now we've lost our only player that is that style. Listen, great to bring in Manzambi, great to bring in Gomez, but we need a similar player to Morgan Rogers.
Yeah, look, Manzambi and Gomez, they are not Rogers and Tielemans.
Different players. Yeah, but they're not a number 10 like Morgan Rogers or winger. They're centre midfielders. We need to replace him. If that's Somerville, if that's Jonathan Rowe, I'm sure the manager has got something lined up.
Yeah. Thanks very much indeed, mate, and thanks to the host of Chelsea Fan TV, Alex Harris. Coming up, we're joined by a man who believes the World Cup could return to the States as soon as 2038. Goodness me, is Donald Trump on the show? Is that what the fans would want? We'll discuss that next.
you said we should respect Argentina as the holders.
Mm.
Do you still respect them after their performance in the final?
Why do you, Alex?
Well, they played like a bunch of thugs. Even
Alex,
the scenes at full time, they were laying punches on celebrating Spanish.
Yeah, of course. I don't like that. Of course, that is what they do. They leave a bit on everybody. And then, of course, at the end, maybe their true mentality comes through and you see them as people.
Look at that picture on the screen now for those watching on YouTube. Is that what you want to see at the end of a World Cup final?
No, Paredes, I simply don't. What I would like to see is, look, if I'm honest, I wanted to see Messi do something in that game. I think the Spanish, though, throughout have been magnificent. I think they only conceded one goal throughout the whole tournament. They proved they kill you with 1,000 cuts. Their passing's magnificent. Rodri's, whether he's the player of the tournament, it's certainly been a magnificent turnaround from him, from Man City. But, look, they'll have to take a good look at themselves. I think the referee was doing the best he possibly could in difficult circumstances.
Because he could have got the yellow card out a lot earlier, but that would have in itself ruined the game, wouldn't it, if he started chucking out bookings?
Well, why didn't he do that? I think he could have made...
he was trying to manage the game. I think he knew that inevitably an Argentinian player
they were getting away, but they were getting away with this against England, and nothing was happening.
Every spring, sports fans in Europe come together to celebrate arguably rugby's biggest annual tournament, the Six Nations. But why is it the home nations, plus France and Italy, and no one else? It all started back in 1871 when Scotland beat England in the very first international rugby match. A few years later, when they could field a team, Wales decided they'd host England and an idea was thought up. With Ireland keen, they formed the Home International Championship, which ran from 1883. In 1910, France was allowed to join, as they were developing into a serious rugby nation, and thus the Five Nations was born. France had an interesting history with the championship. They were actually booted out for paying their players in 1931, when the home nations were keen to keep it amateur. After World War II, though, France were let back in, but it remained a closed shop for more than 50 years. And when another country was let in, it was only really because the Five Nations hand had been forced. Italy was developing into a serious contender, beating Scotland, France and Ireland twice in the same year, meaning in 1999 officials got together and said yes to Italy, and it became the Six Nations. So what changes, if any, come next? 7 nations? 8? A promotion and relegation system? Or should we leave it alone and let it remain the great rugby tradition it's become?
It's exactly 7:35, Tuesday, July the 21st. This is talkSPORT Breakfast with Jeff Stelling Gabby Agbonlahor and Arnold Clark. Browse the UK's best used car deals and score your dream car today. Check out their website for more details. Now, as you might have noticed, the World Cup is over, but the dust is starting to settle on just how much of a success it has been with the expanded format. And the USA hosting the bulk of the tournament. Of course, record profits as well going into the FIFA coffers. There have, of course, been issues as well. High ticket prices, median price of $900 per ticket, hydration breaks, political interference over Balogun, and that red card suspension rescinded, halftime show. Lots of things to talk about. Funnily enough, though, this man only saw positives.
This was one of the greatest events of any kind ever held. So we're really happy that it did so well. And all over the world, people have come and they've loved our country. You know, shown off our country in a different light.
Showed off the country in a different light. So should we see the tournament back in the States anytime soon? 2038, first available date for another World Cup in the States. Let's get the view of talkSPORT's US writer, Brian T. Smith. Morning to you, Brian.
Morning, Brian.
It's great to see you guys again. Thanks for having me on.
You've written an article on talksport.com about why Donald Trump is right and the USA deserves the next World Cup. Why do you think that?
Because everything that you just said, Jeff, was spot on. I agree with that. I mean, those are all facts. But the only thing that you said that the U.S. had a role in directly was the Balogun red card, obviously, because the President of the United States picked up the phone, called Gianni, and politely requested that maybe Balogun could play. Everything else, ticket prices, hydration breaks, all these other things, that's FIFA.
But that is FIFA. Fans of certain nations were excluded from attending. The Iranians were forced to operate out of Tijuana, so it wasn't just FIFA.
Were the stadiums not 99.6% packed?
Can't argue with that. I'm just saying, you can't say it was just FIFA because it wasn't just FIFA.
Qatar had major issues.
Yeah, no.
Russia had issues. I don't think you can have. I don't think you can have a perfect World Cup.
The crowds are outstanding. The US viewing figures were exceptional. The profit is phenomenal. What did Americans make of the final, by the way?
Yeah, I think the Americans know their soccer now. They've been into it for the last 20 or 30 years. They saw the same thing that we did, that Spain was the best team in the tournament. Spain played beautiful football. The beautiful game won, and that Argentina looked like an absolute embarrassing disaster at the end. But I thought that we saw the same things in Argentina that we saw versus England. And I think American fans can see that. I was getting texts from my dad about Argentina, they were not the best team. Friends saying Argentina looks dirty. So we're all seeing the same things. But I think, listen to Erling Haaland, listen to the Tartan Army, listen to all the international fans. I think it's actually amazing that if you look at it big picture, we went into this World Cup with so many questions and so many issues, and it could have been an absolute disaster. There were predictions that stadiums would be half filled and you would have riots and you would have ice, all these things. None of these things happened. So from that perspective, it was a total success for the U.S., and I think it's very interesting. I would love for England to host a World Cup. Mm-hmm. But when is England going to actually raise its hand and try to host a World Cup? It's been since 1966. The United States, 94, 2026, and now they want it in 2038.
We have tried, Brian, but we never got the vote, have we? We tried when Qatar was awarded in 2022.
I think some people as well, it doesn't bother me as much, but the way it's been Americanized.
Sure.
They look at the four quarters, they look at the halftime show, and I mean, I found that the halftime show, okay, I like Shakira, I like Burner, but some of it was a bit cringe. And even before the game, when you got the boxing guys, the Buffer twins,
100%,
and brothers, and they're like, let's get ready to rumble. It was like everything American just got put into the World Cup when some of it wasn't needed. Is that fair?
Gabby, I completely agree with you. But again, that is not Donald Trump. That is not U.S. Congress. That is not senators. That's not citizens voting on that. That is Gianni and FIFA going to make as much money. And I've said this all along at talkSPORT. I've written columns. I've said this for months, guys. This is Gianni. This is FIFA. This is FIFA recognizing that, hey, we are in the United States of America. We can make as much money as possible, and we are going to saturate this and Americanize this. But that is on FIFA. That's not on the United States. I thought the United States overall was a fantastic host. It wasn't perfect, but I thought it went as well as it could have.
Clearly, a lot of people would agree with that perspective as well, Brian. Although when Donald Trump says you should choose the United States of America again, this time we'll leave Canada and Mexico out. Well, they left Canada and Mexico out of the final as well, didn't they? So no change there. But look, FIFA wants to spread the game worldwide. But wants to spread the game worldwide, surely the World Cup should not go back to the States for a third time in a relatively short period.
Someone else needs to raise their hand. I think this is the thing, right? So Gianni and FIFA are on the record that they want to expand this now to 64 teams. I think the real story is that FIFA has been able to expand this World Cup from basically double it. If they go to 64, it would have been 32 for almost 3 decades. And you're going to go to 64 teams. How many countries in the world, realistically, have the stadiums, the infrastructure, the transit, the hotels, Could England host a 64-team World Cup? That's a lot to ask. I will say this too. It should not be in Qatar and Saudi Arabia instead of going to, other countries. The World Cup should bounce around the world, but it's become so big and so expansive and so demanding.
As well, the record profit of 14 billion. Will that make Infantino think, okay, let's get it back to America as soon as possible?
I don't see why. I don't see why not, because as much as we want to talk about the United States, and I get all the good and bad, but ultimately this is FIFA saying we want it in Qatar, we want it in Saudi Arabia, we want it in the United States of America. What connects those three things? Money. Money. Ultimately, they're not trying to. Now, I love that in 2030 it'll be in Portugal and Spain and Morocco. That's going to be an amazing World Cup.
Agreed.
But the previous World Cup, Qatar, USA. Saudi Arabia, USA again, maybe in 2038. That is FIFA trying to get as much money as it can from football fans around the world, guys.
I mean, Ryan has texted us, perfect World Cup is in England. We have everything in place, ready to go. Look, just from an American perspective, Brian, what sort of impact do you think this is going to have long-term on the game there?
Yeah, I've been saying this for a while. So the USMT ultimately disappointed, right? Go out in the round of 16. They weren't any better than they've been in previous World Cups. I think, though, the difference is going to be you had two things. Number one, you had stadiums absolutely packed. You had the majority of the World Cup was in the United States for 6+ weeks. It was a hit. It was a massive hit in the USA. I didn't hear anything negative from my journalist friends of 20 years. But it's not going to be this current generation. It'll be the next generation. It'll be the kids who are watching it and fell in love with Erling Haaland and the Tartan Army and Jude Bellingham and Lionel Messi, obviously. I do think that that soccer now is solidified as the number 4 sport in America. It's only number 4, but that's a good number 4 on the rise. And so I think it did everything that it needed to do. I do wish, though, that the average fan could have gotten into the stadium easier and it didn't just go to sponsors and big money people. But that's how it works in pro sports, guys. The Super Bowl isn't 30,000 Buffalo Bills fans. It's a lot of high-priced sponsors, and that's how American sports work.
Yeah, I mean, I can live with the halftime entertainment and the pre-match stuff and the sort of NFL style, Super Bowl style rings and things. None of that bother me at all. I just think that bigger isn't always better. And
I agree with you, Jeff.
64-team World Cup, goodness me. And we'd love to have it back. We'd love to have it here.
I want it in England. I want to have a World Cup in England.
Put our hand up for it, Brian. We really do.
The countries won the World Cup. Do you know what I mean?
I'm joking. Yeah, but that's the thing, though. The U.S. keeps raising its hand. And that's what I think. It's kind of like the Olympics. It's really hard. The Olympics are in L.A. in 2028, right? The USA has the infrastructure, has the stadiums, has the money to do this. It's really hard for most other countries that aren't the USA to do this anymore.
I think the big issue is we don't have sufficient celebrities to have those camera shots every
Him again. You've gone to him again. Every game, the same celeb. No A-listers.
Brian, really appreciate it.
Jeff, anytime. Thanks, Gabby.
Thanks. talkSPORT's US writer, Brian T. Smith, with us there. Still to come on breakfast.
Breakfast preview on talkSPORT with Travis Perkins. Spend £100 or more in-store or online as a trade account holder and you could win a brand new Ford Ranger. T's and C's apply.
And more tributes to one of football's greats following the passing of Kevin Keegan, Sir John by writer and host of the Sunday edition, Henry Winter. We're taking your calls this morning. Come on and tell us your fondest memories of King Kev. Andrew has done just that. He says he's a Leeds fan. He said, with Mr. Keegan, you didn't have to fluff him up and exaggerate his brilliance and personality. I'd just like to say he was a good man, and there is no greater compliment. And I also say, as an older Leeds supporter, he was useless on a bike in Superstars. If that's the worst I can say, then what a person he was. Whether you met him, knew him personally or not, give us a call, 03717 223344. You can text 81089 as we remember Kevin Keegan. And that was our breakfast preview with Travis Perkins.
Breakfast preview on talkSPORT with Travis Perkins. Want to win a brand new Ford Ranger? Just spend £100 or more using your Travis Perkins trade account to enter into the draw. T's and C's apply.
have got to get your opinion because Wayne Rooney delivered quite a withering assessment of it on TV last night. That halftime show, 27 minutes. Now, first of all, from a player's perspective, you're playing in a World Cup final. You're used to 15-minute halftime, particularly as you mentioned, the veteran stage of your career. Lionel Messi, for example, when maybe your joint sees up a little bit more than they would do normally. Yeah. Is it fair on the players to have to wait 27 minutes so we can see a pre-recorded song by Madonna, we can see Shakira come out and mime, and we can see Justin Bieber come out and suck the life out of the entire stadium?
Do you know, like FIFA, to stay true to the values of the game, if it's a 15-minute break in all the other World Cups, it should be a 15-minute break in this one. That's where they've gone too far. The water break as well will be thrown out. It's an Americanized, World Cup.
It was to sell adverts.
Yeah. Well, I don't care what it was for, but it was changing the momentum of games. It was giving managers an opportunity to stitch in information at vital times in the game. Now, look, I put myself in the mind of the players. And when are we listening to the halftime team talk? Are we going straight in to listen to the manager when it's a rousing team talk? We've got to wait 20 minutes before we then, he actually gets into it.
The subs can't even go and warm up on the pitch because it's covered with
you can't warm up. What are we doing? How are we keeping those muscles and minds?
Good morning, 7:49, Tuesday, July the 21st. This is talkSPORT Breakfast with me, Jeff Stelling and Gabby Agbonlahor. Just heard Brian T. Smith extolling the virtues of the World Cup in the USA. But what about if it did come to England? What would you have as your halftime show? John has suggested halftime show, the roly-polies, while the crowd sup on Bovril. I'm in. And somebody else has suggested that, here we go, Sean says, bid for the 2038 World Cup, we could get Chaz and Dave, halftime entertainment, Rabbit, 1960. You never get over it, would you? Well, sadly, it would have to be just Dave because Chaz has passed away, Sean, but I do take the point. What would your ideal halftime show be if we had the World Cup again in England? I'd absolutely love to hear it. Meanwhile, Argentina will face an investigation into the ugly scenes at the end of the World Cup final, FIFA's confirmed. Former Villa striker Jean Duran's joined Benfica on a season-long loan from the Saudi Arabian side Al Nassr, and a desperately sad day for football yesterday and the nation as a whole with the death of Kevin Keegan, who's died aged 75. He was one of football's most influential characters and made a massive impact wherever he went, including Hamburg, where he spent 3 seasons between 1977 and 1980. talkSPORT's Mark McGee had a stint in Hamburg 4 years later. He joined the station yesterday and spoke on the mark that Kevin left on German football.
He was there 4 years before I was. He was there and sort of when he won the Ballon d'Or, the European Player of the Year, and 2 years in a row, was it 78, 79? And I went there in 84. But in 84, oh my God, all I ever got was Kevin Keegan. And I used to think, well, wait a minute, this guy, it was clearly some sort of superhuman, because it wasn't just the supporters who still held it. I've heard you describing him as a British icon. I've got to say, he is a German icon, every bit as much as he is a British icon.
Yeah, and I mean, his impact at Hamburg was absolutely sensational, but, it was pretty much everywhere he went. I mean, we had a Southampton fan texting us earlier on. He had a couple of years, successful years at Southampton as well.
Top player wherever he played.
Yeah, absolutely. Halftime entertainment in a British World Cup, shall we say. M6 Matt says Morris dancing. Yeah, I'd be up for that. Could you imagine how Morris dancing for 27 minutes would go down in the States? Brilliant. Time for our next coffee break now with Costa Express.
The Costa Coffee Break on talkSPORT, sponsored by Costa Express. Kick off your day with a quality coffee on the go from Costa Express.
Welcome back, Laura Kirk-Francis.
Morning, Laura Kirk-Francis.
Morning. Can I just throw my thoughts in about our halftime show? Yes, I think we embrace what we're good at, and that is cheesy British pop.
Yes.
Girls Aloud, Spice Girls, maybe the Saturdays, followed with some Morris dancing. I think that's what the world
Oasis,
needs.
maybe?
Oasis, and then maybe something from X Factor as well. Chico doing It's Chico Time.
Sure, Rob Williams will come over.
Oh, no, you've had your day. It's time for someone else. It's time for someone else.
Jill's text is a halftime show. Mr. Bean in a Lego Mini bringing on Sir Jeff Hurst. The Rolling Stones arriving on the stage in motorised scooters. Children singing dressed as red phone boxers. Finishing with the Spice Girls in bucket hats. Rapping to the words, tell me what I want, what I really, really want.
I mean, it's the Olympics 2012, isn't it? It's really what we're describing here. Your back pages today, we're going to talk about Pep Guardiola. So, The Sun are reporting that Italy have held talks of a potentially Pep Guardiola taking over the Italy manager job. They are in need of a manager after they failed to qualify for their third successive World Cup. We've not seen a World Cup in 20 years. Can you believe it?
Incredible.
So Gennaro Gattuso left his role back in April. They lost to Bosnia and Herzegovina on penalties, failing to qualify for this year's World Cup. Not such a bad record in the Euros. They obviously beat us in the final in 2021, crashed out in the group stages 2024. But Paolo Maldini, who's the new technical director of the Italian Football Federation, rumoured to have travelled to Barcelona to meet with Pep. If we go back to May, though, you might remember that Pep was asked when he announced his leaving City that he would be out for a while, and he said, I need rest, I need to step back. Many people, when I said it will be my last season, said, after 3 months, you will come back. I don't think so. I will take a while. And fast forward to where we are today in July. Gabby, is this the kind of challenge that someone like Pep would want? Obviously, unbelievable record at City, first ever side to win it 4 times in a row, the treble. Going to an Italian side who, some good players in there, Donnarumma, Bastoni, Barella. It's not a vintage Italian side, but is that the type of challenge that
I think
you'd
so.
like? Yeah.
I think you look at Ancelotti, look what he's done. They achieved everything in the game, but wants to go and manage Brazil. I don't see it happening now, but he will definitely come back out of retirement to manage a nation. I hoped it will be our country. Would have been nice if we made a big decision and said, Thomas Tuchel, no, thank you, not for me, didn't work out. Go and get Pep Guardiola before the Italians do, because he's an outstanding manager. And as much as he wants rest, he'll still get rest being an international manager. It's not as hard as it is being a club manager. You get a lot of break. You get to go around the world and watch your players play. And I'm sure that's the sort of job that he would look at.
I'm not sure I can see Pep Guardiola as someone who is good at resting. You can't see him at home, getting into golf or gardening.
Look at Klopp.
Exactly.
Klopp didn't last long,
he didn't last long.
He plays a bit of golf, doesn't he? He plays, I think.
But not enough to keep his brain, I think,
Klopp
going.
wanted to go and retire in Mallorca, which he did. Then he goes and joins Red Bull.
Yeah.
And then now he's like, Germans are available.
Germany,
I'm
back.
I'm back.
Jeff, will the Premier League miss Guardiola? We've talked all morning about an absolute icon of the game, but it's fair to say that Pep Guardiola will leave quite a big hole in the Premier League. I think we'll miss him when the season starts imminently.
Yeah, some of the post-match interviewers won't miss him because he can be a bit spiky.
Did you ever have any interaction with him?
No, I didn't. But of course we'll miss him. One of the all-time great managers. In the same way as I think it's fair to say we've missed Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah.
Missed a couple of the great managers. So I think the Premier League will miss him. But time rolls on, and in years to come there'll be somebody else that we're talking about in in wonderful terms of what they've achieved and what they've won, the sort of football they played, all the things we did talk about with Pep. I think, though, Gabby's right, international team manager, that's a part-time job, isn't it? It is. It's a part-time job.
Yeah, and it's hard to see Pep managing the way that he does. He is so meticulous, quite a difficult role where you only see the players every couple of weeks. Jeff, quickly on Maresca, he takes over from Pep. Very difficult job, and it's quite hard to think of where a big side has had a dynasty. You think about Ferguson to Moyes, Wenger to Emery, Klopp to Slot to a certain extent. Is Maresca set up to do well at City, or you think he'll struggle?
Well, he's set up to do well in the sense that, they've still got plenty of quality players there, and they've just recruited Elliot Anderson as well for 100 and whatever million pounds. So, and he's not going to be short of a bob or two to spend there. But you're right. It's a hard act, maybe an impossible act to follow. What would be construed as success for Enzo Maresca this year? Does it have to be winning the title? Because I don't necessarily see that happening. If he finishes second or third, that would, people would accept that from Pep because of what he's achieved before, but would they accept it from Maresca?
I think it's hard for us to even try and guess. We will see in due course how that squad of players reacts to a new manager and how much extra Pep got out of them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
How much it was a factor
exactly
of him.
How you might look at it and say, oh, Man City finished fourth, and they didn't do well in the Champions League. That just shows what Pep done for that football club and those players. But then Maresca, he knows a lot of the players as well. He used to coach under Pep Guardiola as well, so maybe it will be swift, be a nice experience, and they'll do okay.
Yeah, and presuming they're going to keep, Rodri, and presuming they're going to keep Erling Haaland,
exactly.
And Phil Foden may well be back to his best. Jeremy Doku, look, they've got some fantastic footballers.
As well, Jeff and Laura, what's going to happen as well is a lot of the players that played in semi-final and the final probably not even going to come back to their club till after the first game of the season. So in that 3 or 4 first games of the season, could we see, for instance, Arsenal? Who are they going to be without? Saliba's injured. Declan Rice, Saka won't be playing. So it might be a chance for other clubs to get a head start against teams.
Yeah, we all know that the Premier League can't be won in the first couple of weeks, though. So it could be a really interesting until we get to that first international break with players coming back. On Italy, though, if it's not Guardiola, the other candidates are Andrea Pirlo or another stint for Mancini as well. So
and they need a change.
Yeah, exactly.
They need to try something different.
Yeah. Coventry fan Dave is talking about half-time entertainment. This is my half-time entertainment, Jeff. 14 minutes queuing for my pint, 1 minute to drink it and take my pie back to my seat. Can't be beaten. Thanks, Dave. Laura, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you, Laura.
That's it for this week, is it?
It is
for today,
indeed, yeah.
rather.
I'll see you tomorrow.
No, you won't see us tomorrow. Well, not me
you're on a
anyway.
day off, are you? Oh, I see how it is. Part-timers. You're about the England job.
I'm in tomorrow.
Oh, you're in tomorrow.
Oh, you're in tomorrow.
I'm in tomorrow.
I'll see you tomorrow then, bright and early.
Yeah, I am the Pep Guardiola of this part-timer. Actually, I'd like to do what he does as well at the moment. Yeah. Golf course beckons. Thanks, Laura. That was all thanks to Costa Express. Coming up, we'll continue to pay tribute to the icon of world football, that's Kevin Keegan.
The Costa Coffee Break on talkSPORT, sponsored by Costa Express. Kick off your day with a quality coffee on the go from Costa Express.
Let's talk Morgan Rogers. Obviously, Middlesbrough will be quite happy as well, Crookie.
Yeah, I think they get 15 million quid there or thereabouts from their sell-on.
Yeah.
This is a move that's come somewhat out of the blue because I felt for the last few weeks the direction of travel was that Morgan Rogers ends up at Arsenal. I know that his advisors have been in talks with Arsenal for quite a few weeks now, but I'm not sure that Arsenal were willing to pay the asking price of Chelsea of season opportunity, £117 million, a British record fee, and he's on his way to Stamford Bridge. I think Arteta is going to be really disappointed because Rodgers was his top target. Arsenal could offer Champions League football. Chelsea, of course, can't offer European football of any form. But from an Aston Villa perspective, this should give them the platform now to go on and find their way around the financial issues they've had with UEFA in particular and be able to bring in reinforcements. They need them, don't they? Because they've not only lost Morgan Rodgers, they've lost Yuri Tillemans to Manchester United.
Aguero, Solskjaer, Deeney, Watkins. Sure, you know all about those last-minute goals, but have you heard the one about the on-loan goalkeeper who saved his temporary employers from disappearing out the Football League and into almost certain financial oblivion? Back in 1999, Carlisle United, managed by Nigel Pearson, were fighting to stay in the Football League. Carlisle's finances were precarious with a capital P that season, leading to a scenario where, with 3 games to go, they had to ask the FA to sanction an emergency loan deal to bring in a goalkeeper. Swindon Town's Jimmy Glass arrived at the club. His efforts in his first 2 games earned the Cumbrians 2 draws. Those vital points meant that Carlisle went into their final game of the Division 3 season, now League 2, needing to beat mid-table Plymouth Argyle in front of their own fans and hope their relegation rival Scarborough didn't win against Peterborough at home. The game at the McCain Stadium finished 1-1, and with the same scoreline at Brunton Park deep into injury time, Scarborough's fans invaded the pitch en masse, believing their Football League status was secure, convinced they'd done enough to stay up. However, there'd be one more plot twist. Carlisle won a corner in the dying seconds, and up came Jimmy Glass. In one of those you couldn't make it up moments, Glass scored from a rebounded header and was promptly swamped by teammates and thousands of fans who quite simply couldn't believe what they'd just witnessed. As for Jimmy Glass, he became an overnight celebrity, but he never played for Carlisle again, and his playing career never really kicked on after that defining moment. He took on various jobs outside of football before finding his way back into the sport as player liaison officer at Eddie Howe's Bournemouth, and most recently the general manager at non-league Wimborne. Not the fairy tale ending to one of the most Hollywood moments in football, but the name Jimmy Glass will live on forever as the scorer of that goal, arguably the most important in any club's history.
Good morning, this is talkSPORT Breakfast. I'm Jeff Stelling with the former England striker Gabby Agbonlahor, and we're here with Arnold Clark. It's the perfect time to upgrade your car. Get 2 years free servicing when you buy a used car in the upgrade event. Check it out online. Now, it's being reported that Alex Scott has turned down a new contract at Bournemouth amid strong interest from Arsenal, Chelsea and Manchester United. Bournemouth have made Scott a number of offers since discussions began towards the end of the season, but the midfielder has indicated he is not currently willing to agree new terms. Bournemouth do not want to sell the midfielder who's entered the final 2 years of his current contract. Be a long old queue for that, Gabby, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's the worry, isn't it, Jeff? When you go to 2 years, it's like, do you cash in now? You get the full value.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, yesterday, England lost one of its greatest ever players.
This Liverpool side swarming forward now. Keegan!
to me, he's one of the greatest ever Liverpool players. And people might go, oh God, there's been so many. But Keegan's got to be up there in that top 10 of the greats of all time.
There is no doubt that the Germans are concerned about Kevin Keegan.
He was just wonderful with everybody. And it's not just signing something for everybody. You had a chat.
Woodward, now Toshak. That's for Keegan. What a goal! What can you say about Kevin Keegan?
And his whistle signals that the European Cup has come back to Britain and has come to Liverpool, who've won it in the same season as they've won the championship.
An amazing player. And at Liverpool, he won everything there was to win, as he did when he went to Hamburg, and of course twice European football, or if you prefer, Ballon d'Or winner. But it wasn't just about his achievements on the pitch that made him special. And here's a text from Duncan in Brentwood. He said, back in 1996, I used to do jobs for my nan. She wrote to Kevin Keegan explaining how hard I worked for her and asked if there was any chance of getting me a ticket to a Newcastle match. Kevin wrote back, and I travelled up from Essex with my mum and granddad for a game against Sheffield Wednesday. I got the players' autographs, saw Kevin, and it became a day I will never forget. I'm now an Essex-based season ticket holder at St James's Park. Kevin inspired a generation of Newcastle fans, including me. He'll always be a legend, and he will be hugely missed. And that tells you a lot about the man. To give us more, let's bring in leading football journalist and co-host of the Sunday edition, Henry Winter. Henry, good morning to you.
Morning, Henry.
Good morning. That's an absolutely beautiful tribute
you've just
relayed there. And I've been watching on YouTube as well and just seeing the pictures and listening to Tomo as well. So well done, whoever put that together. Very beautiful and obviously very poignant and very sad.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's there in the record books what he was like in terms of a player and his success. You must have dealt with him many times as a member of the press. What was he like as a person to deal with?
Oh, it was an absolute joy because you could fall out with him if you critiqued him on certain things with England. Gareth Southgate in midfield, famously or infamously against Germany, the last game at the old Wembley. And then you could fall back in with him within seconds because he was such an enthusiastic character. I mean, Gabby will probably find this hilarious, but he actually took the press team for football training once. And you know what we're like, Gabby, it was at Melwood, his old stomping ground, Liverpool's training ground. And you just came away totally enthused and feeling like you too could be a Ballon d'Or winner, even though you've got the sort of, the fourth touch was pure cement. So, yeah, he was just one of those amazing individuals, and you could have arguments, but I can remember going once when he was at Newcastle and they were training at Maiden Castle, where the students of Durham University train. And I went along and I had arranged to have a sort of 15-minute chat with him after training, and Newcastle's press officer said, yes, no problem. Kevin's just he's just sort of signing a few autographs after training. Well, first things first, there were thousands of them there. And second thing, he did everyone. And it wasn't in the days when you could just do a quick selfie and move on. He signed every single autograph. I remember this vividly, looking out of the pavilion window and thinking, am I going to get the last train? Am I going to get the last weekend train home south? And just seeing him, and it's remained with me vividly. There was a kid in a wheelchair. And Kevin just went down on his haunches, looked the kid in the eye, spoke to him for about 2 minutes, made that kid feel $1 million. And that was him. That was his nature. Maybe that was things that Scunthorpe sort of growing up, maybe someone snubbed him. The famous Doncaster Rovers scene when he got snubbed by and the autograph of a first team player then. He never forgot. He was a superstar who reached for the stars, but he always kept his feet on the ground.
Henry, 2 Ballon d'Ors says it all, doesn't it, about his career as a player? Can you try and explain to the younger generation that are listening right now, watching on YouTube, what sort of player he was?
Well, I have to do that every year because I vote on the Ballon d'Or, and so I sort of see it very closely. And to win 1 Ballon d'Or, Michael Owen, Bobby Charlton, sort of greats like that, especially Sir Bobby. But to win 2 is phenomenal, and to do it overseas in Hamburg, where he's revered. You only had to see, Gabby, the sort of the tributes that came from clubs in Germany who he hadn't played for, Union Berlin, Bayer Leverkusen, saying they were devastated, just saying what a friend he was to German football. Kevin touched so many lives. So coming back to your point as a player, I mean, you'd be better equipped to do it than me. I mean, he was just a brilliant finisher. He was small, but he was athletic. He could rise high. He worked so well with John Toshak, the big man, small man. I mean, I can remember just watching that growing up. They're not Liverpool fans, just thinking, wow, how good that was. And we have to remember, this was in an era when he played, when there were so many superstars. It was Seb Coe, Barry Sheen, you know, all these sort of incredible characters. And it was the first television age, really. And you saw him do things like sort of superstars, get on his bike and compete against all these other sort of great superstars. He was fun, you know, he had a couple of singles, you know, books, just everything about him. So, yeah, but a brilliant footballer. And I'm glad people are mentioning that, and the prolific supply of goals. Also for England, was it 21 in 60-odd games? So, yeah, an absolute legend.
You know, we all talk about his sides as a manager, particularly at Newcastle, as being cavalier and entertaining. Is it oversimplifying it, though, Henry, to say that as a manager, he just went for it?
Yeah, and which is an interesting debate after what we've been through with England. I'm still out here in America. I don't really want to come home. I mean, he just, yeah, that was his nature as a person. But I think it was his nature as a person. But I also think he felt he owed it to people who worked hard all week. I remember he came from Armthorpe. He came from mining stock, father, grandfather, and it was very much you worked hard, and then you went and watched the team at the weekend, and you wanted to be entertained. And whether that was, he tried with England, and it didn't really work. But, you know, he tried certainly at Newcastle. I mean, that great entertaining team. I mean, everyone remembers the sort of 4-3 Colin Moore's goal, and Kevin sort of slumped over the advertising hoardings at Anfield. But I can also remember, you know, the 5-0 against Manchester United at St James's Park with Philippe Albert just sort of cruising through and taking a ball from Rob Lee and chipping Peter Schmeichel. I can remember walking out of that game thinking, I'm not a Geordie, but I'd love to be an ordinary Geordie tonight, to have seen that, to know how much it feels, and then to sort of dance off down the hill into the big market and have a great night out, celebrating Kevin Keegan because of the joy he's brought into my life. Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely special.
Henry,
man.
do you know what seems fitting? Sunday, the 23rd of August, Newcastle versus Liverpool. First game of the season for both teams. That is going to be Kevin Keegan Day, isn't it?
Gabby, that is such a good spot. I mean, no, I hadn't seen that. And isn't the fixture list serendipitous at times? I mean, that is just beautiful. And you know, those two great clubs, they're already, I mean, Liverpool's tribute yesterday got even an old cynic like me emotional just sort of watching that. The fans will absolutely do him proud, as they already have already. I mean, people talk about online being a difficult place at times, but it's been very beautiful with all the tributes everyone's paying.
Yeah, I mean, universally popular. Dave in Rochester says, Jeff, I fell in love with my red and white patch football signed by King Kevin, 1975. People have asked me for 51 years why I'm one of those Liverpool fans who live in Kent, and I answer, because of my hero, Kevin Keegan. Loved him to bits. And I've got one more from an anonymous text here. Said, I wore my Newcastle shirt to Oktoberfest in Hamburg back in the 90s with Keegan on the back. As I walked into the beer tent, the whole marquee stood and started chanting, Keegan, Keegan, Keegan. Yeah. People loved him wherever he went. Henry, thank you so much.
Thank you, Henry.
My pleasure.
Top man.
Leading football journalist, co-host of the Sunday edition, Henry Winter there. Coming up, we'll hear your stories about Kevin Keegan. 03717 223344 is the number to pay tribute this morning on talkSPORT Breakfast. There is a line that you should not overstep, and they overstepped it communally numerous times.
Got to be a long ban.
Yeah.
Jeff, if you look at it, Jeff, if you watch it back 5 or 6 times, Paredes, what we say, on Garcia, he grabs his neck, and the way Garcia's after the game, Garcia's neck jolts. That's assault.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Like, it's assault.
Like you, Stuart Pearce believes that the Argentinian midfielder needs an incredibly strong punishment.
Oh.
But you've got to say, and just to back up exactly what you've just said there, sometimes in life and in football, what goes round comes round. And that's exactly what's happened to Argentina today. And I'm sure FIFA...
Good morning to 8:18, Tuesday, July the 21st. This is talkSPORT Breakfast with me, Jeff Stelling and Gabby Agbonlahor. We're talking this morning about the legend that is Kevin Keegan, who we learned yesterday had sadly passed away at the age of 75. We've been asking for your calls to pay tribute to King Kev and your texts as well. Andy's a Newcastle fan. Morning to you, Andy.
Morning, Andy.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, Gary.
So, Andy, what are your memories of Kevin Keegan?
Well, originally, my dad started taking me to Newcastle games in '82 when Keegan had signed as a player. So I'll have been 9-year-old then, and just how enthusiastic he was about playing football. But my biggest memory is him being took away in his helicopter after his testimonial. A couple of years later, I was an 11-year-old boy crying my eyes out, thinking that we were never going to see him again after he gave us a couple of great years of some exciting football.
Yeah, I mean, he was... and that was the thing, wasn't it? He gave you so much exciting football. It's just such a crying shame from a Newcastle perspective, isn't it? And from a memory perspective that they didn't win the league title that year.
Well, I'm on about when he was a player.
Yeah.
In '96, when we didn't win the league, that was hard to take. But I think that was down to Peter Schmeichel more than anything.
Yeah. Brilliant. Andy, thank you very much indeed. Louisa is a Leeds fan. Morning, Louisa.
Morning, Louisa.
Good morning, gents. I just want to say, you're making me very emotional this morning. I've smiled at your tributes. I've had tears in my eyes on your tributes. And I never had the pleasure of meeting him. I saw him at Elland Road once, and he chatted away to all Leeds fans as if he were just a Leeds fan there. And I just think the way everybody, the tributes that are coming in, just shows what the man he was. And
yeah, you know what, Louisa? It's interesting you say that. I think one of the things about Kevin Keegan was it was his ordinariness that made him special, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely, definitely. I mean, like I say, I only saw him the once, and it looked like he got time for everybody. But I just want to say, the way that you're paying tribute to him on talkSPORT from yesterday afternoon to this morning, it's fabulous and very emotional.
Yeah, so you should be, Louisa.
Louisa, thank you very much.
What I love, though, what I love, Jeff, is that, like you hear our callers this morning, you know what I mean? Kevin Keegan was a down-to-earth man of the people. Yeah. And that's what our listeners want to hear. You know, they want to hear it on the radio as well, listen to us, people that are down to earth and they're humble, and that's what Kevin Keegan was.
He really was. Danny from Ipswich says, never forget Kevin Keegan on Superstars, that TV show, for those of you who are too young to remember it. He crashed on his bike ride, covered in cuts and bruises. He got back up and said, these people have come to see me make a fool of myself, and they have a right to it. So back on the bike. Keith's a Norwich fan. Morning, Keith.
Morning, Keith.
Good morning. Memories of Kevin. I've watched a lot of England games at Wembley through the sort of late 70s up until the 80s. And I went to see England play an away game in the Olympic Stadium in Munich. And we turned up in the town, walked off to the nearest beer hall. And when we walked in, there was a table full of German lads with an England flag with a Hamburg badge on it. And they'd come to support Kevin Keegan rather than Germany or England, because that was the sort of inspirational figure he was. He could actually, make people cross borders of support because of him and the way he was. And I thought that was absolutely marvellous. The other tale about him, I don't know if you know, but England had a match cancelled, or it was called off in the 80s, and Keegan was at Hamburg. He had to go back to Hamburg because the match was played on the Thursday rather than the Wednesday. And a Norwich player called Kevin Reeves was actually called into the squad to replace him. And so that was another fond memory, because we didn't used to get many Norwich players into the England squad in those days, or even now. So yeah, great guy. I've got his biography at home somewhere, and I'm going to reread it because he was a special person as well as a special player.
Look, Keith, I think a lot of people will be rereading his biography at the moment as well. Thank you very much indeed for that. Westy just says simply, Kevin Keegan is the people's champion. And Chris has texted, said, I've got a story relating to Kevin and my dad. My dad, Steve, was a trainee at the Midland Bank in Scunthorpe, while Kevin was at the Iron, Scunthorpe in other words. They shared digs together while he was playing for Scunny. My dad had a car, Kevin didn't, and often Kevin had to borrow Dad's car to get about. When Dad and I spoke briefly yesterday, he jokingly said he still owes me £1 for all the petrol he used when he last used my car. Don't suppose I'll be getting that back. No, you won't. But what a memory it is that you used to loan your car out to Kevin Keegan. Let's take another one. Leo's a Newcastle fan. Morning, Leo.
Morning, Leo.
Hello, lads. You all right?
You're right.
Yeah, very good, thanks, mate. What are your memories of Kevin?
Good. I just remember when his first game against QPR, me and my mate went down and we got right next to the goal where he scored against QPR 1-0. But we went to the toilet and we missed it, so we weren't on TV. But then when we got back, we unveiled this massive banner, and my mate had spelt his name wrong, Kevin Keegan. So the Gallagher then started singing Kevin Keegan instead of Kevin Keegan. and then 20 years later, I tiled his house, so I took the tiles out and rubbed them on my body and put them on his shower. And I said, I've been in your shower, Kevin. And he went, how's that? And I told him the story and had a little bit chuckle and all that. But lovely bloke.
Yeah, he is the sort of guy who would just laugh at that. That's brilliant. Thanks, Leo.
Thank you, mate.
No problem.
Malk in Southampton says, I've enjoyed all the well-deserved tributes to the great Kevin Keegan. I'd just like to point out to those who are maybe wondering where he was between his times at Hamburg and Newcastle, Laurie McMenemy pulled off what must be the most amazing transfer coup of all time in bringing him to Southampton, where he enjoyed 2 years that Saints fans will never forget. Absolutely. Thanks for all your contributions. Do keep them coming. All your memories of Kevin Keegan, please. 81089 on the text 03717223344 if you want to give us a call. Right now, let's get the latest odds with Coral and Simon Clare.
The Coral Daily Download on talkSPORT with Coral. Celebrating 100 years of rewarding the fans. We're here for glorious Goodwood. T's and C's apply. 18+, gambleware.org.
Simon, good morning to you.
Morning, Simon.
Good morning. I listened, lovely show. What a lovely show. All the tributes and the calls about Kevin Keegan. As you say, a guy who, as soon as you heard the news yesterday, a nostalgia trip back to the 70s for me as a young boy falling in love with football. And he was one of the stars. You know, when you got your packs of cards with the chewing gum in it and you opened it up, there'd be a picture of Keegan, would be one of the ones you'd value most. So,
you know what he did, Simon, because I remember those days, is he raised everybody's spirits.
Yeah.
You know, things weren't necessarily great in the 70s, but he raised everybody's spirits.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Jeff. And I think that was what was the story of his life. Always positive, always passionate, wasn't it? I mean, as you say, I can't think of anything negative that you could think about Kevin Keegan. Even in those tough times against Fergie, when he couldn't win the title, when he had to resign from the England job and chose to resign, he could have, he didn't have to leave it. But he did everything with class, really. And I mean, it's ironic actually after watching that awful Argentinian performance against Spain and the classlessness that a man like Kevin Keegan reminds you everything that's great about being a sort of top sportsman and a humble sportsman. But he was also a great racing fan, and there's tributes to the Racing Post today. And him and his wife, his wife bred Funfair Wayne, who won the Labrador's Air Gold Cup, and Kevin owned him with his wife. Won it twice in 2002, 2004, and Adrian Nichols, who was Danny Nichols' son and the jockey at the time, pays a nice tribute to the Racing Post today. But
just before we move on, Sam, just one more quick one from Jim in Glasgow. Says that I'll never forget Kevin Keegan going out to face Newcastle fans who were protesting about the sale of Andy Cole. I don't think we've ever seen or will ever see in the future any manager doing that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
God, I do remember that.
Too.
Yes,
I do too.
Iconic. So many iconic moments for one man.
Absolutely. We could fill a whole programme with. Well, we are going to fill a whole programme with it. Yeah, in fact, we could fill a whole day, a whole week with it.
We won't dwell too long before we get back to Kevin Keegan, Jeff. Anyway.
But look, Sam, the World Cup over. Next big one is the 2028 Euros, home Euros. As well as far as England are concerned. And I imagine we're pretty well fancied, are we, to do well in that?
Yeah, we are. And I think, when the dust settles, the disappointment sort of eases, and you realise that actually in many ways getting to the semi, finishing third, was an achievement. What could have been, of course, is frustrating. But, it looks like there is a big three. Spain are 130 favourites to win Euro 2028. France, second favourites are 4-1. And then England, third favourites at 9-2, which I think reflects the kind of pecking order. Then it's 8-1 Portugal, 9 Germany, 14 Netherlands, and 16 Italy and Norway. And that's kind of obviously with no Argentina or non-Europeans in the mix. That's the way it's sort of packaged up. And I think there are reasons to be optimistic. Obviously, we've got to find a potentially, Harry Kane could well be around in 2 years' time. But how do you feel, Gabby, now the dust has settled about that next mission?
Yeah, definitely confident. But I just hope that the manager has learnt from his mistakes. That's all any English person in the world would have wanted, Simon, is not. Yeah. Maybe it doesn't have to be an apology, but say, I got it wrong. I shouldn't have went defensive like I did. Going forward, I'm going to be positive. That's what you've been brought in to do, and then hopefully we can get over the line in Euros.
Yeah, I think that's right. You've got to learn from the lessons and try and take something forward. But
you see, Simon, can I say quickly on the Premier League? You see when clubs sign a player, the odds change. You saw Morgan Rogers going to Chelsea. Are their odds of top 4 got better?
That is a very good question.
Manchester United signing Tielemans. Do you know when a very good transfer goes through, does that make the odds change a little bit?
It tends not to. I'm just having a quick look now. I mean, Arsenal is still 6-4 favourites, but Chelsea is still 10-1. Top 4 finish. I think probably the things will change as we get through the summer transfer window. I mean, Chelsea are 11-10 for a top 4 finish. There's still lots against, I mean, 6-4 Arsenal, 130 City, 11-2 Liverpool, 6 Man United, and then 10's Chelsea is the top 5 pecking order.
Brilliant, Simon. Thank you very much indeed.
Listen, got to carry on listening. Carry on with the tributes, Jeff. Great stuff.
Good lad. Thank you very much indeed, Simon. That was a look at the latest odds with Coral 18+, gambleaware.org. Coming up, we continue to take your calls and texts on Kevin Keegan, and we'll also build up to the boxing at the weekend with a friend of the show, the heavyweight Dave Allen.
The Coral Daily Download on talkSPORT with the Coral Rewards Shaker. With 100k of free bets available online this Tuesday and Friday. We're here for glorious Goodwood. 18+, max 1 reward per day. Reward restrictions and T's and C's apply. Gambleaware.org.
who would have even dreamt that 6-4 would be the scoreline in
a madness,
the third and fourth place game?
A 10-goal quote-unquote thriller, an absolute candy floss
and
of a game
of
of
chances
football
that were missed as well.
Oh, I watched it live last night, and I went back over. My notes from when I'm watching a game are often an absolute madness when I read back over them. And I'm like,
are you on little bits of paper, or is it a big sheet?
No, I actually, weirdly, I WhatsApp them to myself. So I write them in my phone as I'm watching, and as there's breaks in play, etc. And one of the things I wrote is England could have scored 6 in the first half. France could have scored 9 in the second half.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a absolute madness of a game of football. But is it one you take in any way seriously?
Well, it's hard to... Could you imagine that game and that result being in the tournament as a semi-final game?
Absolutely not.
Boxing. It's a sport that makes multi-millionaires out of the world's best fighters, but it's not as flush with cash as you'd think. We all see how much the likes of Tyson Fury or Canelo Alvarez make every fight, but that's not the case for those just starting out, or those who aren't even at that level. For example, if you've just turned pro and don't have a promoter, you have to sell your own tickets, cover the cost of the venue yourself, and pay the tax man at the end of it. You might not even break even, but if you do, you're looking at 5 to 10 grand max. A mid-tier fighter might make more like 10 to 50 grand, but you still have to give up half of that in costs. So unless you're fighting for a world title, it's tough to make money. One potential way of doing it, though, is being a journeyman. Here's former European champion talkSPORT's Spencer Oliver explaining how that could work.
They want to fight every week, and they can be going in against the prospects, so they can demand good money, and they might be demanding like 5 grand, 10 grand for a 6-rounder or something because they're going in with a prospect. He gets through that, the journeyman gets through that fight, and he can fight again next week.
I mean, even so, it's not much, and you're getting punched in the face for a job. It's only really at the top level, i.e. fighting for titles, where you're earning up to 6 figures and can afford a diamond chain or that Ferrari. So boxing isn't a sport that allows you to retire at 40 and live a life of luxury. Much like a lot of other sports and jobs in general, it takes an awful lot of luck quite early in your career to really make it worth your while.
Good morning, this is talkSPORT Breakfast with me, Jeff Stelling and Gabby Agbonlahor. We're here with Arnold Clark Browse, the UK's best used car deals, and score your dream car today. Check out their website for more details. Kevin Keegan, a man of many talents. I'm not sure singing was too high on that list, but listen to this. There's another great text. There's so many of these. So many of these. This one actually doesn't have a name on it, but he said, in 2002, my brother had a serious head injury and was in a coma. My sister tracked down Kevin's PA, and even though he was on holiday, he phoned the hospital. I spoke to him from the intensive care unit at my brother's bedside. Kevin sent a tape recording of a message down that we played to my brother on a Walkman. Amazingly, Kevin phoned my parents' house several times over the coming months to check on progress. And then, a year later, when my brother had recovered enough to travel, he hosted him, my sister, my dad and my uncle at the Etihad for a game against Blackburn Rovers. They spent a good time with him on match day, met Graham Souness and a whole load of other people. To echo all the other tributes, Kevin was a man of the people. We can only hope he knew what a difference he'd made to so many people.
Amazing.
Yeah. Because gestures like that, it's clear from this morning, they weren't one-offs. Second nature to him. When people asked for help, you know, he provided it.
And also, Jeff, we know in this world that not everybody's like that.
No, I know.
People are the total opposite.
Yeah.
So to see him do that so many times, I'm sure you could read out 2,000 of those scenarios where he's done so much for people. Legend. And like I said earlier, I hope that his family are okay. We wish them well.
Absolutely. Let's take another call. Steve's a Man City fan. Morning, Steve.
Morning, Steve.
Good morning, Jeff. Morning, Gabby. How are you doing, lads?
Yeah, we're good, mate. What do you want to tell us about Kevin?
Yeah, it was a little story after City won the treble into 2023. I had a little tattoo on my leg with the treble on it and the City badge and that. And every year we go away with the lads to Torremolinos for the Cheltenham Festival. So on the way back, I'm a little bit worse for wear at Malaga Airport. Anyway, I'm sat there on my own away from anybody. Anyway, this couple walks up and he is, City till we die, eh? And I thought, who's that? I looked up. It was Kevin Keegan with his wife, Jean. And I'm like, wow. He said, are you okay? I said, a little bit hungover, Kev, but I'm okay, mate. I says, all the better for seeing you. And I had a picture talk with him, and he was just an absolute gent. Anyway, we gets on the plane. He's coming back to Manchester. He gets on the plane. He gets off at Manchester Airport, and he went, I'll see you later, Steve. And I'm like, yeah, see you, Kev, as if we're old mates. And that's how he made you feel. Yeah. It's just like, that's a type of geezer he was. He was just like your mate, even though I'd only just met him.
Yes.
He just made me feel, he lifted me that day. It's just unbelievable. And it's such a sad situation that's happened at the moment. But he was equally loved by City fans as every other fan in the country. And he'll always be remembered as a gentleman.
Steve, thank you very much. That's a recurring theme. Everybody remembers Kevin Keegan as a total gent. We'll be talking to Phil Thompson, his former Liverpool teammate, at around 9:15 this morning. Now, Anthony Joshua's comeback starts this weekend, actually, faces Christian Prenga in a warm-up for the huge Tyson-Fury clash later this year. Of course, talkSPORT is your place to be this Saturday night to hear every bit of the action. So let's look ahead to it now with DAZN.
Big fight build-up on talkSPORT with DAZN. Anthony Joshua's comeback starts this Saturday as he faces Christian Prenga. Watch only on DAZN Saturday Fight Night.
British heavyweight boxer Anthony Joshua was involved in a car accident.
I was walking with giants, man, that kept me protected, kept me shielded, and I know what I'm going to do what's right for them.
Serious. It is lights out! Wow! Anthony Joshua!
They told me, if you beat Prenga, we'll give you Tyson Fury. I said, please, give me that contract.
He's got destructive power, so as soon as that shot lands, it's over.
He looks in the shape of his life. He's been training at Usyk's camp.
Anthony Joshua!
It's seen as the final hurdle before that potential showdown with Tyson Fury.
Fury is what he says he is. Maybe he should step forward and Frank should put his fighter forward instead of worrying about what I'm up to.
And I'm delighted to say to look ahead to the fight now and his own bout, actually, as well. It's a very good morning, friend of the show, British heavyweight, Dave Allen. Morning to you, Dave.
Morning, Dave.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, Gabby. How you doing?
Yeah, really good, thanks, mate. Look, as far as AJ is concerned, how important is it that he wins in style, makes a sort of statement performance, if you like, not just a win?
Yeah, I think Prenga, I think a lot of us are not expecting too much from him. We're not sure how good he is. We're not overly familiar with him. And because of that, we're probably expecting the worst, that he's not going to be actually that good. So anything less than Anthony Joshua taking him out there in devastating fashion in a couple of rounds will probably be a disappointment. That's the risk you take when you take on an opponent that isn't really, ranked particularly highly.
I think as well, we will see that, Dave. Many reasons. Obviously, Anthony Joshua is a top boxer, but what he's been through as well with his friends, losing two of his close friends the way he did in that tragedy, he's fighting for them. I'm sure that will give him a lot more energy during the fight.
Yeah, I think Prenga's the perfect guy. I think he's been picked smartly. The matchmaker's done a good job. Prenga looks a big, strong guy, and he's a young guy, and he's going to be there to win, there to change his life. But Anthony Joshua is a consummate professional. Mm-hmm. He's always in shape. He's always fit. Every fight's a world title fight to him. So I expect that he'll take care of Prenga in really good fashion. But he has been out for a long time. There's been a lot of things, happened in his life, but he's a strong man and he's a consummate professional. So I'm not worried that this one won't go his way.
I mean, Tyson Fury's got a warm-up fight as well this week. I use the term pretty loosely, actually, because he's fighting a bloke who's nearly 47 and has lost 13 times. So what's that all about?
Yeah, I'm not as excited about that one. Joshua and Prenga, there's at least a bit of unknown there with Prenga. What I've seen of him, I'm not sure he's up to the level of Anthony Joshua, but the Tyson Fury-Marius-Vac fight is, probably less bit better on that one.
Dave, I saw you last week downstairs walking and you looked in tremendous shape. How has your camp been and what does your opponent offer on Saturday?
Yeah, fight Saturday at Doncaster Dome. Look forward to watching at Doncaster again. It'll be nice to box at him. Only my third ever time. I fight Dan Garber, a big, capable southpaw. I'm fighting Thomas Carty at Croke Park on the Katie Taylor show. So this is good practice, I guess you could call it. We've got someone in similar stature, a southpaw. So hopefully this will be the ideal warm-up for Croke Park.
Yeah. I mean, Croke Park, that would be something special, wouldn't it, Dave, with 80,000 there. I think it's a full house, isn't it? Sold out straight away. Could be a really special night.
Yeah, hopefully. I'm boxing the guy from Ireland. I'm coming as the away fighter, but it's going to be a hell of an atmosphere. I'm looking forward to it. It's a big opportunity for me again to get back to the big stage another time. Another chance for me. So I must be the luckiest man in British boxing, but I plan on taking it with both hands.
How has your camp been, Dave? Because we speak to a lot of boxers, and there might have been a little niggle, and they might have had an illness. How has yours been? Has it been perfect all the way through?
Terrible, really. Oh. I'm not a lover of exercise. So the older I get, the less I love it as well. So, every day is a bit of a slog. I've been doing a lot of training with my old man. The older I get, the more patient we become, I think. So me and my dad have been doing some training together. I know that I'm near the end now, a couple of fights left at the most, and just trying to enjoy it, really, trying to make some more memories, trying to get my dad involved. I'm still trying to with Jamie Moore and Nigel Travis, but trying to get my dad involved, trying to enjoy it, trying to get the best out of myself, for one last little push.
Yeah. Hey, well, look, the very best luck against Dan Garber and against Thomas Carty as well. 80,000 people. That will be some night, mate. So the very best of luck.
Yes, good luck, Dave.
Cheers, Dave.
Top man.
Brilliant. And I know that Dave said if he lost that fight against Carter, he would probably retire. But what a way to go out that would be. 80,000 people.
I like how his views on his career as well, Jeff, and his future. He doesn't try and go over. You hear Derek Chisora talking about trying to come back. He knows, Dave, that he's got a couple of fights left. Then he can retire, make a bit more money out of these 2 fights, retire with his lovely family.
Yeah. He's such a lovely guy, and he's so sort of self-deprecating when he says, I must be the luckiest man in boxing. Yes. Goodness me. It's not just about luck, Dave, that is for sure. That was Look Ahead Day. Jay against Prenga with DAZN. Join DAZN Ultimate for 185 plus fight nights per year and 12 plus pay-per-views every year, including AJ against Prenga, all included at no extra cost. Buy now at DAZN.com.
Big fight build-up on talkSPORT with DAZN. This Saturday, it's danger before destiny for Anthony Joshua. Joshua versus Prenga, live exclusively on DAZN.
Viva
España. Thank you, Spain. Muchas gracias, España. Ferran Torres, you absolute beauty. You have saved football, because from start to finish, whether it's Tom Cruise's pathetic speech about unity in front of Donald Trump, whether it's the game starting 6 minutes late, whether it's the disgraceful refereeing which allowed Argentina to push, scratch, foul and dive their way into extra time, whether it's the most egregious decision to chalk off Nico Williams' opener, whether it's the ridiculous half-time show which wasn't even good, or Infantino chasing after Donald Trump after the trophy was handed out. This World Cup in so many ways was an absolute circus, and Argentina, who might have produced two of the world's best players, have been an ugly addition to this World Cup, and I'm glad they got their just desserts. The only shining...
.48, Tuesday, July the 21st. This is talkSPORT Breakfast with me, Jeff Stelling and Gabby Agbonlahor. Headlines this morning. World number 2, Luke Humphries, is out of the world match play darts in Blackpool after a shock first-round loss to Scotland's Cameron Menzies. Alex Scott's rejected a new contract at Bournemouth with interest from some of the biggest clubs in the Premier League. And the footballing world has been remembering the life of Kevin Keegan after his passing, aged 75. Alan Shearer played under Keegan at St James's Park and has always spoken very highly of his former Newcastle boss.
Kevin Keegan was like the Pied Piper in Newcastle when he came as a player, and me, being a youngster, was one of the ones that followed him around to the training ground and to the ground, and getting his autograph and a picture in every opportunity. I was lucky enough to go to one of his Blue Star soccer days when he was playing at Newcastle, and then was lucky enough to play for him as a manager of Newcastle, and of course when he was manager of England. The Geordie public adore him. He gave them hope, he gave them happiness, and he gave them a brilliant football team that played some great football. Very, very nearly won the Premier League, but it just wasn't to be. What a man, and he will always be loved from the people of Newcastle for what he achieved for their football club, and he always put them first, and that's what mattered.
Yeah, Alan Shearer on Kevin Keegan, and I'll tell you what, we've been swamped with texts this morning, and every single one has been positive. Every single one.
Yes.
Paul says Derby County and Nottingham Forest play for a Brian Clough trophy when their fixtures come together. What an opportunity for Liverpool and Newcastle to create a Kevin Keegan trophy, which I think is a terrific suggestion, Paul. Now, it wasn't the end of the World Cup that England players would have hoped for, but it may not be all doom and gloom for some. Because the World Cup is over, some might have decisions to make. Jed Spence being one of those, potentially. He's under contract with Spurs until 2029, but he's attracted interest from Everton and Inter Milan. Do you see him leaving Spurs?
I don't see De Zerbi wanting him to leave. I think he got a lot of criticism early on in the tournament, but grew into the tournament, and at times was our best defender, 1v1, especially in the France game. So I think he stays at Spurs. I don't see him leaving, Jeff. I can understand why an Italian club would want him, though. You know, they base their football on defence at first, don't they? The three at the back, five, if you want to call it. But I see De Zerbi wanting him to stay because he's a very good defender. Yeah. Player, obviously, left back, or right back, or wing back.
Would he fit the bill as someone like Manchester United?
Depends what they're looking for, because, listen, Jed Spence is a very, very good defender, Jeff, but what he isn't is someone who's going to put in amazing deliveries. That's not his game. So it depends what Manchester United are looking for. Defensive-wise, he's definitely the sort of player that De Zerbi would want to keep as well. I don't see them getting rid of him. No way.
I mean, I mentioned Manchester United. Look, Marcus Rashford had a disappointing World Cup. I didn't have many opportunities, let's be brutally honest about it. Being out on loan, I mean, what is going to happen to him?
I think when you look at his loan, I watched a lot of Marcus Rashford at Barcelona. I think it was a successful loan, Jeff. He played 43 times in the league and Champions League together, 13 goals, 10 assists. I'm just surprised teams haven't bid for him. I don't understand the Gordon transfer. I really don't. I feel Rashford is a better option than Gordon. He's 28. Is it the wages? Are we looking at someone that maybe his contract, if he's got a year left at Manchester United, the wages are too much for clubs to maybe sign him on a 4-year deal? Is he getting closer to that 30 mark as well? The contract will be something really strange going on there. But whoever signs him has got a fantastic player, because he looks like he's in a better mind frame as well. I look at him before the World Cup. He's at Inter Miami doing extra training. At Barcelona, we hear nothing negative about Marcus Rashford. He's in a better headspace being away from Manchester. So if I'm him and I'm his agent, does he look at another club abroad to get away from any distractions that he might have back at home?
Do you think he may have to settle for another loan deal?
It's hard, isn't it? Because will Manchester United accept that? Because he's got a year left.
They may not have any options.
I know. Does this come down to the end of August, Jeff, end of the transfer window? And maybe it has to be, because I just don't see him playing for Manchester United again. One, Manchester United, the players that they've brought in, he doesn't fit into that team. And also, as a player, I know it might not be much to a lot of people, but he's lost his number. Cunha took his number. I don't think he's going to come back and be like, okay, I'll wear this number now and I'll be a bit part player. I think Marcus Rashford and Manchester United's relationship is done. So I don't see him being there end of the transfer window.
Johnny Rowe, out in Bologna at the moment. Reports are that Chelsea and Villa are interested, which could boost his chances of eventually getting into the England squad. We're going to be looking for a number 9. He doesn't score a lot of goals, hasn't scored a lot of goals in Italy.
Winger, isn't he?
Yeah, but I remember his performances for the England under-21s when he won the Euros, and he was absolutely exceptional.
I watched him in the games against Aston Villa, and Matty Cash is a top defender, but he ripped him up, Jeff. He was direct, stop-start, quick, very sharp. He's a player that I really want Aston Villa to go and get. If you look at his appearances last season, he could score more goals, Jeff. Only 3 goals in 28 league games and only 4 goals in 12 Europa League games. Has he got to produce more output in goals and assists? Yes, he does. But as a manager to get out of him, it's Unai Emery. If I had my perfect world, I'd love Rowe and Somerville. Aston Villa need wingers, and I think he fits that bill. 23. But what he has got, Jeff, he's got that spark to him that maybe some managers will have to calm him down. He had the fight with Rabiot at Marseille, and both of them got sold by De Zerbi. I just seen a clip last week of a pre-season friendly, and he got caught by a defender, and he ran over, pushed the defender over, had to walk off the pitch in anger. So he's got that spice to him that maybe a manager like Unai Emery can calm him down. But top winger, and I'm sure clubs will be looking at him.
Yeah. Final reports suggesting Arsenal are on the hunt for a new defender. Well, I think it's pretty sure they are after William Saliba's injury, which is going to keep him out for a number of months. Needless to say, a Villa player has been linked with them as well, which is Ezri Konsa. The Sun's been suggesting that John Stones is under consideration. Of course, he wouldn't cost them, but you know.
The problem is, though, Jeff, you go and get Konsa. It's going to cost you, what, 70 million, something, some big money for a 28-year-old. Yeah. But then Saliba's coming back. Then you've got Saliba, Konsa, Gabriel, Mosquera, Hincapié. They need someone short-term. They need someone maybe on a season-long contract, someone on a free transfer. Stones perfectly, but Stones' injury record doesn't make sense. They need someone on a loan that, like, Saliba comes back from his injury. Thank you, but we've got our 4 centre-halves. We don't need someone on a permanent. So I don't understand the Konsa one.
Yeah, it's very difficult to bring someone in on that basis, though, isn't it? You know, when they know they know that they're going to be sitting on the bench at best in a few months' time.
But let's not forget how good Mascara and Hincapié were.
Yeah.
They're going to fit in straight away to that starting team. Whoever they bring in might not even be starting, so it's difficult.
They've got so many quality defenders. Do they need another centre?
Probably not, but maybe they look at it and say, do we want, with the Champions League as well, do we want 4 top centre-halves? 5 months is a long time. Ben White can play there as well, can't he?
Yeah.
So maybe they look at someone like a season-long loan.
Yeah.
Hard to find that.
Just on the subject of transfers, Mark's texted in and said the talk about Jed Spence has only come about because we have Pedro Porro at the club as well, and I think Porro starts ahead of
100%.
Spence.
Yeah, 100%, definitely. But we know where Spence can play. He can play, can't he, wing back, he can play left back, he can play right back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't see De Zerbi wanting to sell a player who had a very good tournament.
Just another tribute to Kevin Keegan coming from Alex from Fulham, who said, Kevin visited the Brunswick Youth Club in Fulham when I was about 10 years old. The time and patience he gave to all of the kids, taking us through drills, chatting with us and making everyone feel important was incredible. Me and some old friends still talk about that day and the time that we spent with him. I've still got a photo with him too, holding my arms up in the air. All the parents and adults there said what a genuinely lovely man he was. Recurring theme, not a word of criticism.
No.
Rightly so for the great Kevin Keegan. Still to come on Breakfast.
Breakfast preview on talkSPORT with Travis Perkins. Spend £100 or more with a Travis Perkins trade account and you could win a brand new Ford Ranger. T's and C's apply.
Hey, what do you think you're playing at? Come here. That's no way to cross the road, is it? Come over here, I'll show you a safe place to cross. Now here, there's no parked cars to block your view. Nothing coming? Sure? Off you go. And straight across, mind. And keep your eyes open. It's part of the Green Cross Code. Take it from me. Be smart, be safe.
When Kevin tells you, you do what Kevin tells you. Kevin doing his Green Cross Code public announcement. Just one of the brilliant memories we have of the great man. We'll hear more of those memories when we're joined by his ex-teammate Phil Thompson around 9:15 this morning. Half an hour dedicated to the great Kevin Keegan coming up. That was our breakfast preview with Travis Perkins.
Breakfast preview on talkSPORT with Travis Perkins. Spend £100 or more at any Travis Perkins Hire or Benchmarks branch as a trade account holder and you could win a brand new Ford Ranger. T's and C's apply.
Gabby, well done to Spain. Argentina were an absolute disgrace.
Yes, last night, I felt like I won last night watching. I felt like football was the winner. Anti-football lost. Shame that Messi's probably last World Cup game was a game where his team didn't try and play football. Disgraceful tactics that have worked all through the World Cup. They've bullied teams. And last night, they tried to bully Spain and it didn't work. Finally, a referee who decided to give a few bookings. Could he give a lot more?
Oh, well, how was Paredes still on
especially to Paredes and other players, but at least he gave that second yellow card to Enzo Fernandez, who deserved to get sent off. Football's the winner once again, which is what we wanted to see in the Champions League, football being the winner, and also in the World Cup.
Yeah, that Enzo Fernandez, I've never met him, he must be a lovely bloke, mustn't he? After the England game when he said he likes the English because everyone who cleans and cooks at his house is English.
Wow.
I mean, it's breathtakingly arrogant, to say the least. You know, I think he'll get a pretty hot reception at English football.
Every game
next season.
Every game. Just his character, his celebrations. Social media last night was absolutely buzzing.
From the
Toffees to the Tractor Boys, the Eagles to the Seagulls, Gunners, Bees, Hammers and Magpies, Premier League teams have got a load of crazy nicknames. Ever wondered where they came from? Let's start with Everton. They're dubbed the Toffees, but why? Well, because when the club was formed, just down the road there were two local toffee shops. Ye Ancient Everton Toffee House and Mother Noblet's Toffee Shop were big fan favourites. Next, they say if you can't beat 'em, join 'em, and that's exactly what Ipswich Town did when it came to their nickname. The term Tractor Boys used to be chanted by their opponents as a way of putting the team down for their farming background. But during one game back in the late 90s, Ipswich were 1-0 up and they decided to flip the script. 1-0 to the Tractor Boys, they sang, and a new nickname was born. Let's head to Leicester, famous for more than just a red, well, orangey cheese and Jamie Vardy. Leicestershire's also the birthplace of fox hunting, hence the Foxes. Next up, turns out apples are not the only fruit that don't fall far from the tree. Bournemouth's nickname, the Cherries, comes from the fact the club's stadium was originally built right next to a bunch of cherry orchards. This next story actually involves two club nicknames. It started with Crystal Palace. They were having an absolute nightmare run back in the early 70s. They'd been relegated after a terrible spell and manager Malcolm Allison decided enough was enough. He wanted a new nickname, something strong, fast and destined for success. Something exactly like an eagle. But there's more to this one. Brighton were in search of a nickname too, and Palace finally gave them what they needed. In a heated match between the two back in 1976, Palace fans began chanting, "Eagles, Eagles," and some clever Brighton fans came up with the perfect reply, "Seagulls, Seagulls." Not all club nicknames have a crazy story though. Take the Gunners. That just comes from the fact a group of munitions workers in the Royal Arsenal factory in Woolwich set up the club in 1886. On the flip side, some nicknames seem simple, but there's a bit more to them, like West Ham. The Hammers is actually nothing to do with the ham part of the name. It comes from the fact the club used to be called Thames Ironworks FC and was made up of workmen and shipbuilders. So next time the away end's chanting their crazy nickname, you'll now know exactly where it came from.
Good morning to you. Just coming around to 4 minutes past 9 o'clock on Tuesday, July the 21st. I'm Jeff Stelling. With me, former England and Aston Villa striker Gabby Agbonlahor. We're here with Arnold Clark. It's the perfect time to upgrade your car. Get 2 years free servicing when you buy a used car in the upgrade event. Check it out online. Heartbreaking news yesterday, of course, for the football world as we learned of the passing of the legendary Kevin Keegan at the age of 75. I can't tell you how positive all the tributes have been during the course of the morning. And I tell you, he also, Kevin, he united generations. Jamie says, I was born in 1993. I can't remember Kevin Keegan's first managerial stint. I'll always remember when he came back to manage us the second time at Newcastle. They were giving out paper crowns to everyone before the match. I sat in the Gallagher with my dad and brother, and that night I felt the magic of Keegan at Newcastle United, with the whole stadium singing, "Keegan is our king." That's the impact that he had, not just at Newcastle. Here's how...
Sorry, you know what I want, Jeff? That game, Newcastle versus Liverpool, 23rd of August.
Yeah.
I want a hell of a pre-game show for Kevin Keegan. That's what I want. Players he played with, players that like he worked under. I think Newcastle and Liverpool will make sure that happens.
Two great clubs,
yes,
who I think feel a real connection anyway.
Exactly.
And I'm sure they will do something very, very special for the great man. Here's how talkSPORT brought you the news of his passing yesterday.
to me, he's one of the greatest ever Liverpool players.
He has given English football some of its finest moments with Liverpool, with Newcastle.
European Cup has come back to Britain and has come to Liverpool.
I just loved him. And I'm really sad that he's gone.
Kevin Keegan scores and his career on Tyneside turns full circle.
For the city of Newcastle, for the people. They've waited a long, long time and they're the best, there's no doubt about that.
You feel empty because he was such a fantastic, fantastic guy.
The biggest superstar in our dressing room, and we had some top players in that era, was our manager.
And he gave them a brilliant football team that played some great football.
He lifted us out of the doldrums.
With Philippe Albert.
Change your TV on to watch Newcastle. They were that good.
He is a German icon, every bit as much as he is a British icon.
Two-time European Player of the Year.
I played football up till Christmas that even I couldn't believe.
Whole career was characterised by that honesty and passion.
I'll tell you, honestly, I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
So privileged to have had an incredible footballer, a great human being and a wonderful manager.
You know, Kevin Keegan has given it his best shot.
As he always did. Floods of tributes coming in since the news hit us. King Kev plastered across the front and back pages of the papers this morning, and rightly so as well. Warren Barton was one of Keegan's infamous entertainers. He joined us earlier this morning and recalled some of his fondest memories with his former manager.
Coming home from the trips from London or down south, and we'd stop off at Leeds and go and get fish and chips, as we always did. They did it on the way home. And there'd be Kevin with his shirt undone to maybe his chest, walking up and down there, making sure that everyone's got their ketchup, salt and vinegar, and who's got fish and chips, and making sure Tino's okay, making sure. Just a great man.
Yeah, a man who would have commentated on many of Kevin's games was the legendary commentator Martin Tyler. He joined the Sports Bar last night and spoke about how Kevin will be remembered in football.
As a symbol of all the best values in football, a winner, but doing it the right way with the maximum amount of effort that he could ever muster. And somebody that you were always pleased to have the privilege of being in the same company. He was just a lovely man. But with that, you can't be a successful sportsman, especially in football, without having that harder edge. He knew what it took to be successful. Mm-hmm. He did it in a way where I can't think of him ever being offensive or causing any trouble. He just wanted to make people smile. He had a lovely smile himself. And of course, he came into broadcasting and he did do some co-commentary as well. And it was always a pleasure to see him around. And it's devastating to think we won't see him around again.
So many texts this morning. Lee texted me a little earlier on, actually, and said, I remember 25 years ago, I got to pick up Kevin Keegan and members of his family from Brockett Hall to take them to a 50th fancy dress birthday party being held in Hertfordshire. And Kevin came out dressed as a member of the 1970s group Mud. He said, we had a pleasant chat all the way talking about football. He said, I'm an Arsenal supporter. When we got to the venue, he stepped out of the car and stepped into the marquee and found that every single person was dressed in Kevin Keegan wigs. Fantastic. Hundreds of you have been calling in since the news broke yesterday. One Newcastle fan, also named Kevin, phoned up the Drive show, and it was clear the impact that Keegan had had on him.
We do the Great North Run every year in Newcastle. And one year he was there. He had a Sunderland and Newcastle top on, split 50-50, pushing a young disabled kid from start to finish. That was Kevin Keegan. I just loved him. And I'm really sad that he's gone. I feel sorry for his family. And it's sad that he couldn't come back to Newcastle and say goodbye properly, as he promised to do. He was taken too soon. We're just adorable, Pierre. I'm a 69-year-old guy crying my eyes out about Kevin Keegan because I just thought the world of him. Kevin Keegan was just a special person.
He made such an impact on people's lives. Ken said to say, sad to hear the news about the death of Kevin Keegan, one of my favourite players. I also remember when my ship, HMS Newcastle, was up in Newcastle. He came on board and took crates of Newcastle brown ale down to every mess, taking time to talk to us all. A real meet your hero memory. Been having lots and lots of calls. Let's take some more, shall we? You know what? The thing about the calls as well is they've represented So many different clubs, not just Newcastle and Liverpool fans as you might expect. Simon, for example, he's a Sheffield Wednesday fan. Morning to you, Simon.
Morning, Simon.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, Gabby.
Simon, what are your memories of Kevin Keegan?
Well, it's a bit of a story, actually. Back in the 90s, I mean, Keegan had been my hero since I was a kid in the 70s. I remember my first England football kit being because of Kevin Keegan, the advert you just played about crossing the road. I mean, I still remember that, and seeing that on TV last night, that brought a tear to my eye. But I was, back in the 90s, I used to be a buyer for Next. I used to buy ties. And we used to have this annual luncheon down at the Grosvenor. And we were all sat on different tables with lots of different celebrities on different tables. And I was sat next to Sue Pollard, which was, that was fun. But I could see on a table further away was Kevin Keegan. And I'm going to have to speak to him, but you know, they said never meet your heroes and so on. Anyway, comes to the end of the dinner and everybody's kind of just standing around having a drink. Kevin, I think, was drinking a Coke at the time. And he was leaning against this kind of fireplace. It was like a scene from some kind of TV or movie or whatever. He was just leaning there, but he was on his own. And as I say, I was a little bit scared to kind of go up to him thinking, oh, he's going to think I'm a bit of an idiot and so on. Anyway, me and a friend of mine, he's a Leicester City fan, and we said, come on, we've got to speak to him. He's a hero of ours. Anyway, we went up to him, and he literally, the first thing he said to us, thank God you've come up and spoke to me. Nobody wants to talk to me. And then he literally talked for about 2 hours with us like we'd known him all our lives, and we talked about Wednesday, we talked about England, we talked about absolutely everything. And we actually hardly got a word in edgeways. It was absolutely, if they do say never meet your heroes, then Keegan is categorically absolutely meet your heroes. He was just an incredible person.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed, Simon, for that. Eric is a Man City fan. Morning, Eric.
Good morning, Eric.
Good morning. Morning, Gabby. Morning, Andy.
Well, it's Jeff, but anyway, that's irrelevant.
Oh, Jeff, sorry, Jeff. Sorry, mate.
No, don't you worry about it, Eric. Tell us about, what Kevin Keegan meant to you.
Well, Kevin was just an absolute star of a footballer. Brilliant manager. His teams were always exciting. But the tale I want to tell was that Kevin Keegan's second game as Manchester City manager was Norwich away. So me and a friend of mine have gone to Norwich. I've gone without a ticket. So I was outside the ground asking people if anybody had a spare ticket when the coach pulled up. So Kevin got off and he's signing a couple of autographs outside there to people. And my mate shouts over, Kevin, any chance for a ticket? He didn't even look up from signing the autographs and went straight inside. Anyway, about 5 minutes later, this bloke come over and said, are you the two lads that are looking for a ticket? I said, yeah. He said, I'm the coach driver. Kevin Keegan just phoned me on his mobile and said, he knew I had a spare ticket, and he said, there's two lads out there looking for a spare ticket. Make sure they get it.
Incredible.
And just incredible.
Yeah, brilliant. Eric, thank you very much indeed. You, so many stories about Kevin Keegan and his generosity and his warmth. Let's just squeeze another call in. Lee is a Chelsea fan. Morning, Lee.
Good morning, Lee.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, Gabby. I'd just like to tell you a story that's happened to me and meeting Kevin Keegan by accident. It was back in about 99, 2000. He'd just been given the England job, and he was in a very quiet, very posh tea room down in Romsey in Hampshire. I suppose back from his Southampton days, he was down there visiting. He was there with his wife and his two girls, and he was about 10 feet in front of me sitting at a table. And basically, I said to my partner, I said, it's Kevin Keegan over there. And I said, don't look round. And anyway, a little bit later, she said, oh, yeah, it is him. And I said, I'm going to go over and see him. She said, no, don't say nothing. He probably gets it all the time. I said, no, I'll be fine. And I got a piece of paper and a pen from the waitress. And a couple of minutes later, I went over there. And I said to him, Kev, I said, I've seen you looking over. I said, I know you probably want my autograph. I said, so here it is, mate. Like that. And I give it to him and just tapped him on the shoulder. He looked at it. He went, thanks for that, Lee. Appreciate it. I said, no problem, Kev. I went back to my table, and about 10 minutes later, he left, and he just got up and he said, nice to see you, Lee, again. I went, nice to see you, Kev. And he was just a very decent, down-to-earth guy that you could approach. And what I'd like to say right at the end here is that one of his sayings is that if Kevin was still with us today, I'd love it. I really would.
Lee, thank you so much,
well said, mate.
No worries.
So many uplifting stories. He touched so many people's lives. I hope he was aware.
Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And you can see and hear the emotion in people's lives. Yeah. Look, we've heard what Kevin was like as a man and a manager. Let's hear about what he was like as a player as well. We'll talk to his former teammate Phil Thompson next.
.5 minutes was how long half-time was. That's a disgrace in and of itself. We know that. We know it's a load of tosh. But if you're going to make football showbiz, at least do it well. They started with a clearly pre-recorded Madonna song.
Oh, yeah.
I know. It was like Mario Kart Double Dash with Ronaldo just sat there smiling. And they've had Justin Bieber playing a song nobody knows with a guitar that's not tuned properly. And then, I mean, we don't mind a bit of Shakira, really, but Shakira was the only highlight. But we could have had that in a 15 minute
decent. Although Burna Boy was trying to get a bit too close, you know what I mean? He's trying to get a wine. He's only
and also the irony of having the Muppets there, puppets there.
Oh, what was that about?
In Gianni Infantino's World Cup half-time.
They've overdone it, didn't they?
It was shocking, absolutely shocking. The whole Spain saved it.
Yeah.
Because it was a dark day for football until Ferran Torres, the absolute beauty, came up.
And let's talk about. Hold on. We've got to talk about at the end when they're lifting up the trophy. What's Donald Trump? What's Donald Trump doing? Like he's trying to get a photo up.
Good morning, this is talkSPORT Breakfast with me, Jeff Stelling Gabby Agbonlahor. Almost 9:20. It's Tuesday, July the 21st. Now, we've been taking the morning to remember the legend that is Kevin Keegan, and it has some brilliant stories from fans and ex-players, teammates. We spoke to Warren Barton a little earlier. He told us what life was like at Newcastle playing under Keegan. But let's not forget the glorious years also that Kevin spent as a player on Merseyside.
This Liverpool side swarming forward now. Keegan! Goals pay the rent, and Keegan does his share.
Well, to me, he's one of the greatest ever Liverpool players. And people might go, oh, God, you know, there's been so many. But Keegan's got to be up there in that top 10 of the greats of all time.
There is no doubt that the Germans are concerned about Kevin Keegan.
He was just wonderful with everybody. And it's not just signing something for everybody. You had a chat.
Cormac. Whitworth. Now Toshak. That's for Keegan. What a goal! What can you say
as they've won the championship.
Yes, so many memories. Got one here. I was 6 years old, sat with my granddad and great-granddad at a pub in Pooley Bridge when that's Newcastle, beat Manchester United 5-0. It's a memory I will always have, thanks to him. Sunderland fan says, Kevin Keegan is the first footballing man I've ever shed proper tears over. He transcended football. Such a sad, sad loss. The ultimate tribute to the King is on August the 23rd, when Geordies and Scousers should integrate, because that sums
100%
up. Let's get the thoughts of a former teammate of Kevin's now, someone who played alongside him more than 200 times for club and country, won 7 trophies in the process. It's a very good morning to Phil Thompson. Morning, Tomo.
Morning, Phil.
Morning, guys. You all right?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Look, obviously it's a terrible week, but I tell you, it's been a really uplifting morning, Tomo, because just everybody has wonderful things to say about Kevin Keegan.
Go on.
No, I was going to say, because when he arrived at Liverpool, he came from Scunthorpe, so from a relatively small club. Was it immediately obvious as a player what a talent he was going to be?
Well, he obviously came, and he came as a midfield player, and I was 3 years his junior, and you could see in him there was something special. Listen, he wasn't blessed with some skills like George Best, but he was driven, this young man. And when you take on Ronnie Moran in one of your first pre-season games at Southport, and we got to half-time 0-0. Always remember him. He came in and sat down, and Kevin just went on one. He went, "We're never going to score like this. We're never going to score. This is rubbish." And Ronnie Moran went switch, and Ronnie flew back, and he went, "Well, do you think you can do better?" And he went, "Yes." He said, "Right, you're playing up front the second half." We won 2-0. Kevin scored 2. And that was Kev. He just knew. And then we had a game before the first team started the season, and it was reserves versus first team. And Shanks put him in the first team against the reserves. And the reserves always won this game because they were always up for it. But the first team won about 6-2. Kevin scored a couple. Oh, my goodness. He was in the first team against Nottingham Forest, scored on his debut, and the rest is history. Kevin was right for Liverpool. Liverpool was right for Kevin. Shankly was right for Kevin. Kevin was right for Bill Shankly. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful marriage.
Phil, is there any player in this generation, now this era, that you could describe him similar to for the younger generation that are listening?
It was hard because now, you're getting sort of coached all these keepy-uppies and skills and things like that. And the guys are sort of really, every kid is well coached. What Kevin had was unique. That drive, Listen, players don't come along like Kevin Keegan very often. Kevin should be one of those guys who should live forever because what he had was different. What he had was unique. Hopefully he boxed whatever he had because nobody else has what Kevin Keegan has as a player, as a person. And he needs to leave it for future generations to teach people how to live your dreams. Mm-hmm. And there was something special just about his ability. But, when you get a young man who wants it so badly, you can live those dreams.
Mm. And those dreams, obviously, partly fulfilled in that brilliant spell at Liverpool. And the front two were legendary, weren't they? The big fella alongside him, Toshak and Keegan.
Do you know what? It was great, Jeff. And you looked at the pair of them, and they were made for each. Kevin buzzed around John. John was a good footballer. People just thought he was good in the air. But John had good ability. And you could play the ball up to him, and they had such an understanding, whether he would lay it off in front of him, Tosh, or whether he would flick it on. Kev would be that man to play off him.
And as I say, he wasn't sort of blessed with those silky skills, but he made up with it for determination, passion, all those things. And he was, for the pair of them, to play in that generation, the FA Cup final, like there's something on X or something about Kevin's life. You see some of the things that he did. And he was just a wonderful guy to be around. And it was maybe what we needed at the time, because, you know, we'd gone a few years without winning something, and maybe Kevin was that catalyst which was to change things at Liverpool.
I'll tell you what, Tom, Gabriel was a Man United fan, and I mentioned this. The texts today about Keegan have been from every single part of the country, every single club. He did sort of transcend club rivalries, you know. But Gabriel was saying he'd seen a clip where Kevin's about to sign for Liverpool, and the great Bill Shankly offers him 30 quid a week. And Kevin said he's getting more than that at Scunthorpe. And apparently the Scunthorpe manager was desperately concerned at this, that the deal might fall through because of Keegan's demands, but he walked away with 40 quid a week in the end. And you knew the great man Shankly. You had to be a bit special to stand up to him.
Oh, and you did, and Kevin was like that. Maybe that's what Shanks had seen in him. He'd seen him in the spirit, and he thought, yeah, this guy's the guy that I know can take us to glories. I can pin my hopes on this young man. And I think that's what it was. And yeah, I heard the story that he got an extra £10. No wonder he took it off my salary. It was to pay for him, but he was. I feel blessed to have been around about this guy. And you're right, Jeff. People can talk about it all around the country, because after he's finished, his after-dinner talk was sort of a PowerPoint presentation of his life. And it's so that he was different, and he gave something back. And he'd only be booked till 10 o'clock. He'd still be there at 12, signing for people, having autographs and having photographs. Kevin never let anybody down. For England, we would be in Romania somewhere. He'd sit on the front steps of the bus, signing kids' autographs. Kids, scruffy little kids, and he'd be signing little bits of paper. And Ron Green would have to say, Kev, we have to go. And he'd apologise that he'd have to turn them away. That's what Kevin was like. Brilliant,
Tom. Great stories. A real one-off. And I said earlier on, you know, legend of the game is used far too frequently, but in this case, it is absolutely appropriate. Tomo, thanks very much, mate.
Thank you, Tomo.
My pleasure. Cheers, Gabby. Bye-bye, guys.
Cheers, mate. Ollie says, Kevin Keegan, what a genuinely kind man. I was 4 years old on holiday in Barbados. I remember he let me sit with him at breakfast and did magic tricks for me. He wasn't fussed at all about being recognised. He just made the time for us. My brother and I have a photo at home with one of us under each of his arms. Incredible. So many great memories. And brilliant to have Kevin's former teammate Phil Thompson on the show. This is talkSPORT Breakfast.
You said we should respect Argentina as the holders. Do you still respect them after their performance in the final?
Why do you, Alex?
Well, they played like a bunch of thugs. Even Alex, the scenes at full time, they were laying punches on celebrating Spanish players.
Yeah, of course. I don't like that. Of course, that is what they do. They leave a bit on everybody. And then, of course, at the end, maybe their true mentality comes through. and you see them as people.
Look at that picture on the screen now for those watching on YouTube. Is that what you want to see at the end of a World Cup final?
No, Paredes, I simply don't. What I would like to see is, look, if I'm honest, I wanted to see Messi do something in that game. I think the Spanish, though, throughout have been magnificent. I think they only conceded 1 goal throughout the whole tournament. They proved they kill you with 1,000 cuts. Their passing's magnificent. Rodri's, whether he's the player of the tournament, it's certainly been a magnificent turnaround from him, from Man City. But, look, they'll have to take a good look at themselves. I think the referee was doing the best he possibly could in difficult circumstances.
Because he could have got the yellow card out a lot earlier, but that would have in itself ruined the game, wouldn't it?
Amen Corner, perhaps the most feared run of holes in golf. Each year it claims the tournament hopes of many, with balls hitting bunkers and water traps aplenty. But why is it so fearsome, and where did it get its name? Just the thoughts of holes 11, 12 and 13 at Augusta National gives the likes of Rory McIlroy and Jordan Spieth the shivers. McIlroy hit 3 over and Spieth hit 4 over in their final rounds to blow their hopes of a green jacket in 2011 and 2016 respectively. But did you know Amen Corner's name is inspired by a jazz song from 1933? American sports writer Herbert Warren Wint, on the left here, wrote about it in 1958, referencing the song shouted in that Amen Corner when describing the run. Hole 11 is a par 4 over 520 yards with a green guarded by a pond and bunkers to the front edge. 12, perhaps golf's most famous hole, is a par 3 over just 155 yards. The green's guarded by Rays Creek at the front, more bunkers and azalea bushes ready to punish the smallest error. Then there's the 13th that teases the hook shot over the trees. It's a dogleg par 5 over 545 yards that's inviting for big hitters who want to reach the green in 2. If you want to win the Masters, you have to keep your score down around Amen Corner. So who'll be the next to fall victim to golf's most famous and most daunting challenge?
Good morning to 9:34. This is World Cup Breakfast with me, Jeff Stelling Gabby Agbonlahor and Arnold Clark. Browse the UK's best used car deals and score your dream car today. Check out their website for more details. It's really interesting that there was a new Prime Minister named yesterday, and yet in the northeast, and I presume Merseyside as well, there was no mention of that on the front pages because it was all about the death of Kevin Keegan, and rightly so. And by the way, Andy Burnham would get that as well. He would understand why that was the case. Now, third place, England's highest World Cup finish since 1966. But will this World Cup be remembered positively for England?
It's a new World Cup, a new manager, but the same question, is this England's time?
Okay, on the turn! Oh, what a goal! It's England 2, DR Congo 1.
Where would England be without Captain Fantastic Harry Kane?
England have won! They've laid bare the curse of the Azteca.
3 words.
Don't do it.
Coming home!
Jude Bellingham has done it again. Norway 1, England 2.
Who will make the headlines? It's England against Argentina in a World Cup semi-final.
Back in from Messi. And headed in by Lautaro Martinez. The moment that ends England's latest World Cup adventure. In frustration,
in Georgia. England had it in their grasp, but they didn't see the job through.
So look, England's next match is a Nations League game, and against Spain. So attractive game, that is for sure. It's live on talkSPORT. Oh, of course it is. But Gabby, my question here is home Euros coming up.
Yep.
We will have to qualify for that, by the way, but it shouldn't be too difficult. Qualification for the next World Cup will be even easier than it was this time round. So bearing in mind, we're looking 4 years ahead, 2 years hence, or 4 years ahead. And we all know that the stories, Kane's 36 in 4 years, Pickford 36, Stones 36, Dan Burn 38, Ollie Watkins 34, even Tony 34, Eze's 32, Consa's 32, Rashford's 32. Is it time to start blooding youngsters now, even against Spain, and ignore the fact it's a Nations League competition and just look at the future?
I think it's a tough one, Jeff, because we've still got so many talented players that even in 4 years will still be in their prime years. Morgan Rodgers will be 27. You've got Palmer, you've got Foden, still going to be top players. Saka, Gordon, even Rashford at 32. We don't know how he'll be then. But you've got still players that the next tournament in Euros and the World Cup will still be saying,
Bellingham, Anderson, Maynard.
I'm not old, but why can't we still say the players that we thought about, Jeff, over the last 24 hours and talk about, okay, can they push themselves into contention? Because before the World Cup, there was a few players that were part of the squad that didn't quite make it, but they were training with the squad. And one of the players that stands out for me, Jeff, and you'll name other ones as well, we'll go through them. I really, really enjoyed watching last season, Josh King.
Yeah.
He's 19 years of age, Jeff, 32 appearances last season in the Premier League. But he only got 1 goal and 2 assists. And whenever I watched him play, and every time he got into that number 10 position, top players always find space. And the amount of times he received that ball in that position and created his own space, but maybe the end product, or it's a pass, or his finish wasn't at the level. But that's what you expect of a 19-year-old. A big season for him this season, Josh King. And I just loved watching him. And he's one that I'm sure Thomas Tuchel will have his eye on. Very good player. Kept Smith Rowe, who's a talented player, on the bench most of the season. And forced himself into Marco Silva's plans.
See, when I look at some of the other nations' attitudes, they seem to be more fearless about putting players in. Obviously, Gilberto Mora, Mexico, is just 17 playing in the World Cup. Buadi, 18. Kubasi, 19, and he's a World Cup winner now. Diamande, 19.
But they've got to be better than what you've got. You don't just put them in because they're young.
But they have to have the potential to be better than what you've got.
Yes, of course, yes. But if you look at the tournament so far, people would say, okay, maybe Madueke didn't work out, but would you have put Ingamora in front of Rashford and Gordon? There's an argument to say yes, but people might say, has he?
Maybe not them, but there is an argument to put him in now, isn't there, ahead of them?
Oh, yeah. Put him in 100%. And I feel like someone, Madueke, who didn't perform, even look at Wanyeri, look at Dauman. I mean, Wanyeri's 19 years of age, went on loan to Marseille. Maybe didn't work out as good as he thought he would be, but it's a massive season for him. Max Dauman, 16, massive season for him. These players are going to be so hungry, Jeff, to play, go out there and play their football and break into Thomas Tuchel's ideas. Rio Ngamora, I think he will get a lot more game time under Iriola. I love the way he plays. Direct, doesn't care, will get the ball and go at you again. Relentless. That's what we need.
That's what we need. And by the way, I didn't mention Lamine Yamal in that little list. By the way,
Lewis Skelly,
Miles Lewis Skelly,
19.
Alex Scott, who's only 22. Lewis Miley at Newcastle, who's been exceptional.
Achimong, 20 years old at Chelsea. Can he get more game time this season?
Charlie Cresswell's playing abroad, but I think it's Toulouse, isn't it? But again, I think we've got a lot of very good youngsters. And those who are already involved, the Livramentos, Lewis Halls, Adam Wharton's, Cole Palmer, as you mentioned.
I think you made a good point yesterday when we were talking about it, in the sense that the best way to learn is playing competitive matches.
Yeah.
It's a Nations League game against Spain, world champions, European champions. What a chance to give some of these players a chance to see what they can do.
Yeah.
Players that didn't perform, I agree that they shouldn't be going Madueke. Listen, you might go out and have a fantastic season at Arsenal, but from that performance at the World Cup, I'd rather see a Wanyeri and Ingamora on that right-hand side, or a Max Dauman. Why not?
Yeah. And you know what I think as well, Gabs, is that if they were put... I'm not suggesting, that all of those young players we suggest, I'm not going to say all-star. But if we start to drip them in, I think the crowds would be understanding, would be patient, would be supportive as well.
Yep.
And that might not be the case, actually, after the way
And
we went out
also,
of the
Jeff,
World
what
Cup.
does it do? What does it do for the players that are in and around that squad? It says, you know what? There's these youngsters coming. I've got to be at it.
Pull your finger out.
Yes, exactly. They've got to have top seasons to keep their place in the England squad because you've got these youngsters that are talented and hungry.
And Stuart says, lads, all the players you mentioned are the future of England, but what about the goal scorers? Who replaces Kane in 2 to 4 years? And
that's the sticky one that I couldn't find.
Well, it might turn out to be Johnny Rowe if he comes back to this country and starts performing for someone like an Aston Villa.
Yes.
It might be Liam Delap as yet. I know it hasn't gone the way he wanted it to go at Chelsea so far, but he is still a young man.
There might be someone that we're not even talking about yet, Jeff.
There may well be.
The under 18 that's coming through. We don't know yet.
Yeah, or we may find that Jude Bellingham is playing a different role for England. But there are options.
Our next guest will know, Jeff.
Yeah. Yep, because the World Cup over, so transfer news is heating up. He's taken one hat off and he's got his transfer news hat, metaphorically speaking, on. Let's bring in talkSPORT's chief football correspondent, Alex Crook.
Morning, Alex.
Morning, Crookie.
Good morning. Yeah, the
We just
cowboy
mentioned
hat has been consigned to the cupboard. Jeff.
As it good.
It's sad news. It's sad news.
Well, I'm not sure the nation would concur that it is sad news, mate. Yeah. But look, we mentioned Alex Scott there as, one of the players who can play a big part for England in the future. The big question is, what is his immediate future in terms of clubs?
Well, he was offered a new contract by Bournemouth in March or April. That is obviously still unsigned, so that tells you that at the minute he's not willing to sign on the dotted line. The messages I'm getting from speaking to senior sources at Bournemouth this morning are that regardless of if he signs a new contract or not, they expect him to be their player next season. They're quite steadfast on that. We know there's interest from Arsenal, from Manchester United. I'm told there was an inquiry from Chelsea recently that was also rebuffed. So they are holding firm, not just with him, but with Eli Junior Krupi as well, who's obviously got a lot of suitors right at the top of the Premier League. He scored so many goals as a teenager last season, but they seem defiant. And I guess the ball is in Alex Scott's court now. Does he try and push for this move? Where does he actually go as well? Because a lot of the potential options have been taken, haven't they? Tottenham have signed Sandro Tonali. I think Arsenal will sign Bruno Guimaraes eventually. Manchester United obviously got Tielemans in there and Andre Santos as well. So I think the options for Scott,
to me, Liverpool
are running a bit
shouting
thin.
shouting loud with Antonio.
So that's not necessarily a position they're actively looking to strengthen. They're focusing more on wide players, maybe another defender as well.
I don't blame Bournemouth though. You got into Europe. They want to have a go, don't they, Crookie? Because they don't know where you're going to finish next season. You might have European football the season afterwards. Have a go. You've been selling all your best players every summer. Have a go at keeping your top players if you can for one more season.
And I remember speaking to Bill Foley, the owner, midway through last season, and he said to me, we want Bournemouth to become a club where players want to put down roots, not just a club where they come and are looking for the next big thing. It's difficult because obviously they've still got a small stadium. They're by no means a big club in the Premier League, and it's going to be interesting to see what Marco Rosa, the new manager, can do when they're battling in the Premier League and also, as you say, in Europe.
Yes. Crescencio, some of those names just keeps popping up and popping up and popping up.
Big clubs after
where is he going to end up? Or is there any possibility he'll stay where he is?
Yeah, I've just found out in the last few minutes West Ham are considering an offer from Roma of £40 million for Crescencio Somerville. I mentioned yesterday that Aston Villa a potential option as well, but this is near West Ham's valuation. I think they're going to just hold tight for a little bit and see if any other clubs do make an offer. Would you pay £40 million for Somerville?
100%.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I think what he offers, that second half of the season last season, he was their go-to player, wasn't he? Started scoring goals as well. And
Didn't have a bad World Cup either.
Yeah,
it's no, the Dutch crashed out early.
It's a position that Aston Villa need as well, Crookie, desperate for wingers. Leon Bailey maybe going to Hull. That'll be great news for Aston Villa.
I just wonder about his character at a club like Hull, Leon Bailey.
I don't see it working, honestly.
No.
Because Aston Villa, he's honestly couldn't get past the player. Crookie, when I say to you, and I don't want to be disrespectful to Leon Bailey, but every time he received the ball, he fell over.
Yeah.
I'm not even a cutscene slide, loses the ball every time. I don't know what Hull is seeing in him, but we're happy at Villa.
Well, we're going to have the owner, Junior Licali, on our programme live, so we might find out where they're at with it.
Tell him what Gabby says about him. Goodness me.
I know, but it's
Simon in Warrington has texted, said Alexis McAllister will be moved on at Liverpool and cashed in on. Scott is his replacement. We shall see. Crookie,
Maybe
thanks
should
very
do my
much.
job.
Crookie's back at 10 o'clock this morning. Be alongside the West Ham and Newcastle legend Kevin Nolan. Looking forward to that. Coming up, we'll continue to focus on domestic football and turn our attention to managers entering the season under most pressure.
I've got to get your opinion because Wayne Rooney delivered quite a withering assessment of it on TV last night. That half-time show, 27 minutes. Now, first of all, from a player's perspective, you're playing in a World Cup final. You're used to 15-minute half-time, particularly if you mentioned the veteran stage of your career. Lionel Messi, for example, when maybe your joint sees up a little bit more than they would do normally. Is it fair on the players to have to wait 27 minutes so we can see a pre-recorded song by Madonna, we can see Shakira come out and mime, and we can see Justin Bieber come out and suck the life out of the entire stadium?
Do you know, like FIFA, to stay true to the values of the game, if it's a 15-minute break in all the other World Cups, it should be a 15-minute break in this one. That's where they've gone too far. The water break as well will be thrown out. It's an Americanized, World Cup.
It was to sell adverts.
Yeah. Well, I don't care what it was for, but it was changing the momentum of games. It was giving managers an opportunity to stitch in information at vital times in the game. Now, look, I put myself in the mind of the players. And when are we listening to the halftime team talk? Are we going straight in to listen to the manager? When it's a rousing team talk, we've got to wait 20 minutes before we then, he actually gets into it.
The subs can't even go and warm up on the pitch because it's covered with
you can't warm up. What are we doing? How are we keeping those muscles and minds, turning over?
Good morning to 9:49. Can't believe where the time's gone this morning. Tuesday, July the 21st. This is talkSPORT Breakfast with me, Jeff Stelling, and the former England striker, Gabby Agbonlahor. And we've been talking a lot about Kevin Keegan this morning, of course, hailed as a hero and a friend by former player Alan Shearer after the news of the Newcastle legend's passing at the age of 75. Reports this morning are suggesting that the Italian Football Federation has held talks with Pep Guardiola in a bid to convince him to become their next national team coach. And as the fallout continues from Argentina's defeat in the World Cup final, we spoke to former Newell's Old Boys defender Matti Fondato, who said it felt as though the entire world was hoping for a Spanish victory.
Last couple of games, it's been the same. It looked like the war was against us for some reason. I don't even know exactly the reason, but we felt that. We felt that since Cape Verde, let's say, or even Egypt, or even Switzerland game, there was something like a kind of feeling that happened.
Well, he's right. I mean, everybody in the world was hoping that Argentina lost, wasn't he, after their behaviour in the game against England. But
no, it was, Jeff, especially the game against England. It was like a throwback, wasn't it? Like 30, 40 years ago, maybe where football was a lot more aggressive. And because even at the start of the game, I remember the second minute when Paredes into the back of Bellingham, and Bellingham's laughing. It was like so stop-start, wasn't it, that first 30 minutes? It was like foul here, foul there. They tried to make it dirty. And obviously, when you win as you won against us and you see the celebrations, every Englishman in the world's going to want Argentina to lose the final. That's normal.
Yeah.
Would have been the same if we'd won. Argentinians across the world would have won England.
Yeah, but I don't think it was just the English who wanted Argentina to lose. The worry for me is, and I do get it, you know, we've had statements from the likes of Enzo Fernandez and Christian Romero, and there's no remorse, none whatsoever.
No, they won't.
For what? Look, I'm assuming they're still in Argentina at the moment. They're talking to the Argentinian media.
Yep.
So I know they've got to temper what they say, you know, and shape it for the Argentinian public. But nevertheless, it's a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, and I feel like if you look at their performances throughout the World Cup as well, Jeff, you know what I mean? They struggled, didn't they? Cape Verde, they got over the line. Egypt 2-0 down over the line.
Yeah.
Switzerland, extra time. And what baffles me is that I know this transfer might have been going on before the World Cup started, but Chelsea, Valentin Barco from Strasbourg, is the kid that Jude Bellingham slapped on the back of the head. He ran on the pitch when Argentina scored and mocked the England players, and it was getting a reaction there. That's a baffling signing for me because you can see the reception he's going to get every game he goes to, along with Enzo Fernandez.
Yeah. Maybe a case of not reading the room, isn't it, at the moment? That is
Chelsea style.
Look, let's just look ahead to next season, because it's just a month away now. I mean, we'll talk about your club first of all. I mean, obviously they've lost significant players. Morgan Rogers, Yuri Tillemans, and Onana's going to be out for a significant amount of time. As well, are you concerned that Unai Emery might think to himself, if things don't start well, you know, his reputation is on the line, he can pretty much pick and choose another club at the moment. Are you concerned that he might be tempted to move elsewhere?
I think it depends on how the season goes overall, because don't forget Aston Villa in the Champions League. You know, we've showed what we can do in the Champions League, getting to the quarter-final and look against PSG. I think all depends on how it goes, Jeff. I agree. Every season having to do a rebuild and lose this player and you've got to sell your best player is frustrating for any manager. But I'm sure he will look at this project and say, the club's still backing me. Yes, I've lost Tielemans, and Onana's injury. I brought in Manzambi, I've brought in Gomez, I've brought in now Rodgers is going. I'm looking at Somerville. He's trying to replace these players, and I'm sure his coaching style and how good he is as a coach, he will get the best out of them. But Morgan Rogers and Tielemans are massive losses to Aston Villa, because Morgan Rogers is the one player, the one ball carrier in the side who gets you up the pitch. Whatever he does now, between now and the end of the transfer window, Unai Emery has to bring in a ball carrier. Simple as that.
I mean, look, he's not the only manager in a tricky situation. You know, Eddie Howe was under pressure. We heard, anyway, we were led to believe he was under pressure at the end of last season, but is carrying on. This is a Newcastle side who, obviously, Anthony Gordon has gone. I mean, good money. Of course, they have. Sandra tonight's gone. Really, really good money. Kieran Trippier has gone as well. And no sort of real big names come in as such at the moment. Would you be concerned about what might happen to Eddie if they don't start well?
Do you know what? From Eddie Howe's point of view, Jeff, even if he's listening to this now, I reckon he probably deep down is ready for a change as well. Has he took Newcastle as far as he can take them with these problems with losing their best players, not being able to attract the players that he wants? I can see, Jeff, 6, 7, 8 games in, Newcastle struggling, and then there's talks that maybe it's time for Eddie Howe to move on. Behind closed doors, maybe Newcastle looking at other options, because you know that fan base better than anyone, Jeff. They're not going to accept another poor season. You know, they've been treated to winning a trophy. They've been treated to some unforgettable games in the Champions League. They're going to want that again, but I can't see it happening.
Yeah.
I really can't. I think they're going to struggle.
I mean, it's going to be a fascinating start this season. Also, we've got a lot of new managers in. We talked about Liverpool and
Palace.
Iraola, you know, new manager at Palace as well. I mean, it looks like they're going to use their central defender as well. Palace are, I mean, they're sort of used to coping with that, aren't they? You know, Chelsea have got a new manager in place.
Arbeloa, pressure on him.
Yeah, big pressure on Arbeloa. I mean, that is a punt, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that could easily go wrong, Jeff, because Marco Silva, we'll see, won't we, Jeff, this season? We talk about Pep. What did you get out of them Man City players? Can Maresca do it? What did Marco Silva get out of those players at Fulham?
Yeah.
You know, Diop's leaving, Wilson's gone, more players might leave Fulham. Don't be surprised if Arbeloa doesn't last the season.
Yeah. And, of course, an interesting season at Manchester United as well, with Michael Carrick in permanent charge. And, yeah, Yuri Tielemans, I think everybody would say it's a fantastic signing.
Yes.
Fantastic signing. Andres Santos, you know, costing significantly more than Yuri Tielemans. I would suggest the jury's still out a bit.
100%, yeah. Every time I've watched him play, Jeff, majority of the time, he's either been took off because he's not been good enough. You know, Casado and obviously Enzo Fernandez and maybe Lavia when he's been fit. But that was a strange signing. Tielemans is one where I've said to every Manchester United fan I spoke to, you've got a top player there. Best signings, Jeff, aren't always the £100 million signings. Don't be surprised if Tielemans has a better season than some of the players that have gone for 80, 90, 100 million.
Yeah.
He's that good of an experienced player. So it's going to be an interesting season. Can't wait to see how Maresca plays Rodri and Anderson.
Yeah.
Because you can't not play Anderson when he comes in for that much money. So he's going to play both of them, you'd imagine. Maybe Anderson going forward a lot more, because he can do that, can't he, Anderson? We know he can play further forward if needed. Can't wait now.
Yeah. Oh, look, and I'll tell you
Coventry? Can't wait to see Coventry.
Oh, absolutely.
Lampard,
yeah, see how they play. All the newly promoted sides. And now that the World Cup has finished, now we're going to see a lot of movement in the
go
transfer
time,
market.
isn't it?
It's been, it is go time. You put it absolutely superbly.
Because you want to get all the players in now for pre-season as soon as possible, so you can start getting your ideas across to them. But I do think, Jeff, anyone that was involved in the semi-final or final, you won't see in the first game of the season.
No, very much. The case, it's going to be a fascinating season, that is for sure. It's a month away. I want to finish with one more text about Kevin Keegan. It comes from Darren. He says, Kevin was the reason I fell in love with Liverpool when I was 5. When he left for Hamburg in 77, I was devastated. Being a lad from Portsmouth, when he signed for Southampton in 1990, my dad was mortified. But that didn't stop him from taking me to the Saints. We loved him.
Wow.
I was also lucky enough to have my picture taken with him and Mick Channon in the Saints dressing room, a picture I can't share as a Portsmouth fan. I lost my dad 10 years ago, and Kevin was our hero. Darren, thank you very much indeed for that. Gabby, thanks for your company.
Loved it, Jeff. Well done, mate.
Plenty more on talkSPORT throughout the day. Troy Deeney alongside Andy Goldstein on Drive. Alex Crutton, Kevin Nolan coming up next, and Gabby and Shaban will be back tomorrow morning from 6. Have a great day.
Nothing beats a good workout, Henry.
And nothing beats a great smell of Brute.
Oh, yeah, it's splashing on all over, Henry.
Here, how would you like to be in a Brute Christmas commercial?
Could I say Brute 33 for Christmas?
You've said it.
God, fame at last.